All right, good evening. We will call to order the regular meeting of the City Commission for Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. If you would please silence your cell phones. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Mayor Owen,
Here.
Vice Mayor Colodey,
Here.
Commissioner Hartman,
Here.
Commissioner McGurk,
Here.
Commissioner Sacks.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to begin with an invocation, and that's going to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Police Department Chaplain Sheila Turner will give the invocation.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this evening. We thank you for allowing us to be together one more time. And Lord, we ask that you help us to guide us in making the right decisions for our beautiful city of New Smyrna Beach, Florida, and also right decisions according to your will and your standards for our nations. More prayers for breast cancer for this month. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
One time it came time to do that pledge, and I turned around and I could not, all I could think of was the Gettysburg Address, I promise you. I had this moment of panic, but it came to me. All right, City Manager, any changes to the agenda?
Yes, sir. One item to be added under 8C, and that is the memorandum of understanding between the City of New Smyrna Beach and the State Division of Emergency Management.
Okay, and that's going to be, is it going to be 8C or 7? We're going to do it under 7C, I think, right?
I'm sorry, 7C.
Yeah, 7C, okay. And gentlemen, if it's okay with you on, I think City Clerk talked to you. We have a special guest here today, and I had a proclamation I wanted to do for that special guest, if no one has an objection to that. And any other changes, Kyle? Is that it?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll go out there, we'll do that presentation. Sorry, broke the mic. All right. We have a special guest here today. Is Miss Ayana Mitchell here today? All right, she is. Come on up here if you would. Join me up here. And if her mom would join me up here as well. Her mom is Amy Morgan. You can join me right over here. She's got some other family here as well. We'll bring them up in a minute. So, how are you, Ayana?
Pretty good.
She didn't know this was happening tonight. This is a surprise for Ayana. So earlier this month, a video went viral, and I don't want to give it any more credit or any more exposure, but a video went viral, and it's not what we stand for in New Smyrna Beach. But more than anything, I was very impressed by this young girl in that video. And so I wanted to do something special for you today. So I've got a proclamation here, and it says Ayana Lynn Mitchell Day. So I'm going to read this proclamation, and then we'll say a few more things. So it says, whereas school bullying has become a significant problem nationwide, assuming many forms such as verbal, physical, and on social media. Whereas the city of New Smyrna Beach has zero tolerance for bullying of any form. And it's very important that the community stands together to support the victims by encouraging positive behaviors and creating awareness. And that's what we're trying to do here tonight. And whereas the city of New Smyrna Beach would like to recognize the strength of a 15-year-old New Smyrna Beach high school student and honor Miss Ayana Lynn Mitchell for her confidence, self-control, and maturity during a bullying incident that occurred on October 6, 2020. Whereas Ms. Mitchell aspires to become a radiologist, specializing in sonograms, she's known to many as a smart, lovable, and determined young lady who would do her best to help anyone in need, and is known by her family to be a loving sister and daughter who has a love for music and enjoys chatting with her friends. What teenager doesn't enjoy chatting with their friends? Whereas today I ask all citizens of New Smyrna Beach to join me to recognize October 6th, 2020. That was the day that happened. As the day that a bullying victim handled herself with a grace and maturity that made her mother, her family, and her community very proud. Now, therefore, I, Russo, and Mayor of the City of New Smyrna Beach, do hereby designate October 6, 2020 as the Anna Lynn Mitchell Day. And I want to say this, it was important to me to do this here today because this doesn't erase or change what happened, and it doesn't guarantee you that something like this will never happen in the future. We all have encountered something similar in different ways, in our own ways, and this kind of thing won't always happen. It always won't go viral. It always won't catch the attention, but I wanted you to know that as you go through life and you make choices, you continue to do what you did, and you handle situations like that, and you'll come out on top every time. And although it may feel sometimes like you're standing alone in those moments, know that there's a community of people out there, like these folks here, that are strangers to you right now, but I guarantee you, especially those that saw the video, they're behind you 100%, and they will be every time. So y'all, please join me in congratulating and honoring Miss Anna Mitchell. That's for you. Behind you. Hey. That's for you. This crowd doesn't give many standing ovations either, just for the record. I don't think I've ever gotten one. So, and I think, where's my fire chief? Right here. I think Fire Chief Vandermark wanted to do one more thing, or talk to you about one more thing. Sorry, I broke the mic. So
Well, one of the things that the community and the fire department does for every citizen of New Smyrna is we care for them. We love them. We want to put our arms around them. When I saw the video that the mayor had discussed, all I wanted to do was put my arms around Ayana and kind of comfort her. And so I tried to figure out a way that we could make you feel like you're a part of the fire department and that you're loved by all of us. And so, like most of you probably know, the Christmas parade got canceled. We're going to be doing a tour of the city with Santa Claus and the fire department and the police department. We're going to be going all over town on December 5th. And I would love to have Ayana ride with us in that parade and be a type of grand marshal, if you will, ride in the fire truck with us, and we'll take you all over town, and you get to blow horns and make noise and just be obnoxious if you want to. And that's what teenage girls are good at. So you're now going to be with us, if you'd like to, and be a member of our fire department for that day, and we're going to have a good time. All right? All right. God bless you.
All right. Yeah, let's get some pictures. Let's get the whole family up here real quick. If you all just give us 1 minute, it's a special day for her. So get the Mitchell family. Come on up. Let's grab some pictures. I see some sisters and
She's fine. Do you want me to get commission? No. I don't think so. all right. I feel like we can just go home now. That felt good. All right, next item up. Thank you all for helping us out with that. That was a total surprise to her. Good to see you all. All right, next item up is public
participation, this is your chance to speak to the commission on any item you should choose. There will be a 3-minute time limit. The clock is right over there. Be respectful of your fellow citizens, please, in speaking. And make sure to give your name and address, too. Yes, ma'am.
PJ Pat Arvidsson, 1314 South Riverside Drive, New Smyrna Beach. And I just wanted to indicate that as a 20-year resident of New Smyrna, I take the growth and development of the city very seriously. And I would be honored and I would appreciate to be reappointed to the second term of the Planning and Zoning Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your service on that board. Any others? Yes, sir. Joe, come ahead.
Joe Dluback, 3587 Casalta Circle. And I'd like to recommend approval of the collective bargaining agreement with the IUPA, the police department. I feel it'll provide Chief Coffin with the resources to accomplish 3 major objectives. One is to fill staff vacancies that currently exist. Second is to reduce the workload on current overworked staff. And third, to provide an incentive for retention of the people that we do hire. Therefore, approval of this agreement will result in both short and long-term benefits for the city. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Others for public participation? Yes, ma'am. Come ahead. Yeah, the dog doesn't get to participate? Is that?
Hi, I'm Audrey Bellini. I'm going to take this down for just 1 second. I'm 146 Julia Street, right across the street over there at the Tabby House. And I just want to talk about, I know we've talked at length about the homeless situation, and I really haven't seen any progress. As a matter of fact, it's getting worse. I kind of felt that with everything going on with COVID and people losing their jobs, that this would happen. Just 2 nights ago, this is why I brought my little pup today. But 2 nights ago, I was walking about 10:15 at night, and there was 2 gentlemen, and they were kind of verbal, very loud and verbal. I asked the neighbor if they saw it on the camera, and they didn't catch it. But yeah, it just seems to be getting worse and worse, and I mean, do we have anything in the works going on, I mean, right now, or is there anything that we're all trying to be here as a community, but some of our neighbors are disabled and they can't get here, so it's really tough. Is there something else that we can do to expedite some kind of a solution or even help out?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I talked to some of your neighbors, and I'm sure others will speak. So I'd encourage you, let's get through public participation. Let's have everyone speak, and then we'll speak to that after, once everyone else
Oh,
has
okay.
spoken.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Troy Sudnall, 119 Faulkner Street. I'm here to let you guys know about an incident that happened similar to hers. It was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, walking a dog over at the town hall. And as I turned to come back towards the county courthouse, the old county courthouse building, there was a gentleman that proceeded to get up from the picnic tables, which I now call the picnic table mafia, and walk over to the tree, the big oak tree right there, and urinate. When I looked over to my left, there was a woman with her kid walking a dog. So I proceeded to say, "Hey buddy, are you peeing over there?" So on and so forth. He proceeded to turn around and give me both fingers, give me the bird, and then start cussing. At that time, the young lady and her child and her dog turned around and went the other direction. I immediately did what the chief says, gave the police, gave dispatch a call, and once I did that, I notified them of the situation. There's 2 parts of this. One part is that, hey, yep, we did what we were supposed to do, we called it in. Second part is the information that was passed to the dispatch was not quite correct. When I gave them the description and told them exactly what happened, I had to call back and ask for the officer to call me. When he called me, we were starting to talk about it, and I said, well, what was on your dispatch? He said, it was a vagrant in the park, drunk. And I said, well, he was definitely intoxicated, but I then proceeded to tell him the whole situation. He goes, that was not relayed to me. I will go and talk to that gentleman, which he proceeded to hopefully do so. But that's the thing. You've asked us to call us in. There was definitely a problem. I'm telling you, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Everybody was over at Prima eating. People were walking their animals and their children were outside, and this situation happened. I was very surprised when he turned around and said the vulgarities that he did, and that loud to me. So I just want to let you guys know that, yes, we called it in, but the information that might be getting passed to the city or to the officers out there might not be correct. So I urge all the residents to do so, give proper information and follow up on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly, I can't see that clock, so you're gonna have to tell me if it's, what the time is. There you go, thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mark Saratani. I live at 130 Sam's Ave. And at the risk of piling on, I'm talking about the same issue. We all live right over here. I just want to let you all know that, we bought downtown 3 years ago now to be part of a vibrant, vital downtown with the promise of going to Canal Street and all the promise that offers. And that's still there, but it's becoming dangerous. And you guys are renovating the old church, which is going to be part of your property, I believe. There's new homes being built in Tabby House as we speak. There is a retirement home being built. As more activity occurs downtown, the situation is not getting better. It's getting worse. And I sympathize with y'all because there is no easy answer, and I appreciate the mayor approaching us before the meeting and saying, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? But I just want to let you know, we can't hide from this. And we're very happy, as you can see, we're here at the meeting. Several have been here before. Would love to be part of the solution. One thing I might suggest is at the Volusia County, behind the annex, there is a picnic table and benches, which I believe were there for the employees of that annex to take a break in a shady area, which now they can't do because it is inundated with homeless people. God bless them, they have their problems, I get it. But it's a problem. And so maybe we could take away those benches or put benches that they can't lie down on because they do when they're drunk all day. So it's a problem, it's going to get worse, and I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others for public participation? Hello.
I'm Martha Langman. I live at 117 Faulkner Street in the Tabby also. And I moved from Venetian Bay to be downtown, just like he was saying, to be in part of the downtown area, take part of all the festive things that go on, the restaurants, everything that we can participate in. And we're not feeling safe, and so we want to be a part of the solution, anything that we can do to be involved, and just to let you know, we're here to let you know that we're concerned, and anything that we can do to help.
Okay, thank you. Any others for public participation? All right. Seeing none. So I think that item isn't on our agenda tonight, so any commissioner can speak on it during mayor and commission comments, but I'll say this, there's no one up here, chief included, that is comfortable with it, that likes what's happening. As I told somebody before the meeting, many of the problems that cities face or communities face, the solution usually comes down to kind of time or money. It's a resource problem. This one is different. This is one that we are not just throwing the right resources at it. It's a much deeper issue. That being said, we got to do something. So I plan to speak to this in my mayor and commission comments and talk about what we are doing and what else we might can do. Unfortunately for you all, that is at the end of the meeting, but just keeping with the agenda and not going off track too far. But we will talk about it tonight, and then more will be done, because I don't think anybody up here is comfortable with the stories that we're hearing. So
Mayor, I'd like to say
Sure,
something.
go ahead.
I want to thank those coming out tonight to speak about the homeless population, or the homeless issue and problem we're having. Not only did I expect this, I predicted it, and during the visiting session in December, you remember, that was my big issue. And we talked about it, we looked at some expert opinions, but the bottom line is we failed to do anything. We failed to do what we needed to do. The law is not on our side, and the amount of resources and money that it takes to be able to try to solve it is almost impossible. However, I predicted this in the middle of last year, that it's going to become a big problem. We're seeing it, and my prediction is it's going to get a lot worse. So we have to find a way to be able to deal with this in some way, as challenging as it is going to be. I do not want to see the city and the downtown that we're trying so hard to revitalize, and watching these people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on new homes to have to deal with this kind of problem. So I think we're going to need to spend a lot more time and work a lot harder and prioritize our issues a little better on what we're actually spending time on. And I wanted to say this now, Mayor, I know you're going to bring it up during commission comments, but I didn't want these people to have to wait to the very end of the night for me to address them after taking the time to come in. And I've spoken to a number of them about this issue over the past 6 to 8 months. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. All right, next item up is consent. Yes,
So I can make a comment as well?
sure, go ahead.
I would rather these gentle residents to not have to wait till later to have to speak again, or for us to have a discussion about the homeless. They're our neighbors now. As Commissioner McGurk had said, it is a growing problem, and we're taking the lawful steps that we are at this point. Vagrancy is illegal, open can is illegal, sleeping on public property is illegal, property damage is illegal. So what I would ask you to do is, of course, I hope you're reporting every incident that really is bothersome. These are popular places now. Tabby House is really nice. I'd like to live there, but unfortunately it's downtown. It's close to some of the few resources we have. So we do have a much larger homeless population downtown. So I had just had a conversation with our city manager about it. And right now, in his discussions with the chief, there's not much that we can do. It is a growing problem. We'll continue to discuss, hopefully fruitful discussion. But for now, I'm hopeful that we don't see any bigger problems. But if you perceive crime, if you're fearful, call it into the police. Make it a run, make it a call, so that we can record all of these issues. Again, it's a sign of the times. We're facing COVID, we're facing poor economic times. The problem may grow here in our city. So please bear with us, and we'll try to work out this problem for you. Thank you.
Out of courtesy to the other commissioners, anything to add now, or wait later? All right. Okay. Sorry, I saw you, ma'am. We're gonna move on from public participation, but we're gonna talk more about this, and I'm happy to reach out to you as well and talk to you. Feel free to email me. All right, consent agenda, 6 items. Anyone wish to pull anything? We'll begin with the vice mayor.
No.
Commissioner Sacks, wish to pull anything?
Nothing to pull.
Commissioner McGurk, Commissioner Hartman?
No, nothing.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items 6A through F?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Hartman made a motion, Commissioner Sacks seconded. City Clerk, if you would call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Colodey,
I approve.
Commissioner Hartman,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks.
Yes.
Mayor Owen.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item 7A, the approval of the Southeast Solution Humane Society agreement. We have Megan with us tonight. Do you have a report?
Right. This contract is the proposal between the Southeast Solution Humane Society and the city. Is very similar to last year's contracts. with only a few changes. Those changes being in Part 1 2A, directing that the animals will go to the closest emergency vet clinic after hours when the shelter is closed instead of the one specified in Port Orange. Part 2, Section 2 is quarantine impoundment was changed to add owned animals as well, so now it reads stray and owned animals. And also in Part 2, Section 5, animals taken in as a result of eviction was added as a 7-day holding period at the shelter. Over the course of the last fiscal year, a total of 327 animals have been taken to the shelter from the city. I recommend that the contract be approved, and I also wanted to add that many of the issues we had with the shelter previously have been resolved, and so moving forward would be recommended.
Okay.
Mayor, if I just may add one thing to, if it's possible, we want to ask for a 2 one-year renewal on this one. It wasn't in the contract, so, but we would like to have at least a 3-year contract.
Okay. All right, so staff is recommending approval. City manager is asking that we just add a clause for 2 one-year extensions, so that wouldn't have to come back to us every time, but of course, it can be brought back to us at any time. Do I have a motion on this item?
So move.
I'll second.
With the options, 2 one-year options.
Okay, that was a motion to accept with the 2 options. Is the seconder
Yes.
okay with that? All right. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Colodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maggie.
Mayor, if I may, Mayor?
Sure.
For those of you who don't know, Megan has a new ride. It's been 3 years in the works, I think, that we've talked about. She
Yes,
now has a vehicle to where she can safely transport those animals to and from the shelter and while she's doing her job. She said it got delivered like 2 weeks ago. Commissioner McGurk and I saw it this morning, and it's a really nice looking vehicle, so I think everybody who had a part in that, the chief and Megan and the design, and as soon as the graphics get on it, she's gonna show it around town so everybody can see it. So thank you very much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will.
All right.
In the back?
I'm always in the doghouse, so.
All right, thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next item up, 7B, COVID-19. I think we've got a couple of items to talk about on that one. David?
Yes, sir. So for what we have coming up, we do have the Halloween trunk or treat event this Friday from 4 to 6, partnering with the Marine Discovery Center. Currently, we have 18 local businesses who are going to be helping us pass out candy to the kids as they drive through the lot. At this point, with Flamingo Follies moving forward, we do have 79 vendors signed up and enrolled for the Flamingo Follies. The Canal Street, they're looking to start up their Girls Night Out event again, starting in December. They do want to scale it back a bit and make it more of a shopping-only event. And then even though we're not having a true Spark the Spirit event this year, we still will be planning on turning the Christmas lights on through Canal on the 27th of Friday after Thanksgiving at dusk, and using the timer and whatnot. And the Canal Street did ask their businesses to stay open later that day, because still, with the first night of going on, we're anticipating having some folks out there to see the lights go on. The only other thing that we have coming up right now is our flag football registration is going on. Currently, we have 200 kids enrolled for our flag football. It actually closes this Saturday, so we're anticipating anywhere from 200 to maybe 230 kids or so total. And in years previous, we handled everything on the main multi-purpose field. With COVID, what we're doing is we're separating practices, we're separating fields, where we had 4 or 5 fields last year on the multi-purpose field, where now we're with the football stadium being redone, we're going to be moving practices and games out there, and we're going to be utilizing the soccer fields for games as well, as the soccer program is is not practicing during flag football season. So we feel we can safely spread the kids out and not have 200 kids on one field all at one time. That's
Okay.
what we got for the discussion.
All right, so I don't think there's any decisions that necessarily need to be made tonight, but we appreciate you bringing us up to speed on all those items. I point out, just for the commission's benefit, some of you probably heard, we had talked last time and actually approved, if I recall correctly, Wine Walk. That did not proceed, was canceled by the vendors. They were hurting to, many of the vendors, there was only gonna be 3 or 4 that were gonna be able to participate, because their business has been hurt so badly that they didn't have they didn't want to dedicate basically the resources to that event, you know, numerous other factors, concerns for safety, et cetera. But I'm genuinely concerned, and Commissioner McGurk has been speaking about this, but I'm genuinely concerned about the health of our small business community. And I hope that as we move forward, anything that is brought forward that is done the right way and with safety protocols in place, I certainly hope we're not the folks standing in the way, because our small business community is going to suffer. I think after the holidays, we're going to, you know, I fear for what after the holidays hold. So I'm happy to see some things like this Girls Not Out event. Wholeheartedly support it. I'm glad they're scaling it back, but I'm hoping that we can keep some of these things going, because community's hurting, small business community's hurting, so. All right. Thank you, David, for the update. We're clear, nothing needed to be approved on that one, right? We're good?
No.
Okay. All right, 7C, this was the item that was added by Khaled. This is the MOU between NSB and Department of Emergency Management.
If you recall, Mayor, a couple of weeks ago, I had mentioned to the commission that I was reached out by the emergency operation manager from Volusia County. They're trying to have a testing site in New Smyrna. They looked at a couple of sites, but they decided on the city gym located at 1000 Live Oak. We will have this memorandum of understanding with the division for a month from November 1st to November 30th at $800 a day. And they will also pay for the janitorial services each day at $750 for the month. They will also put tarp and protect the floor in the gym. They will bring back, as soon as they finish, they will sanitize the entire building, make sure that it's back to the original condition. We have an item here that they could renew based on a mutual agreement between the city and division if the needs is there. Basically, it's just a basic memorandum of understanding, so we recommend that we approve this. And the only thing is I want to ask David to ask them on the election day, maybe that they could close down because of the parking issue. So,
Okay.
with that, I'll be more happy to answer any question.
Any questions on this item? Or do I have a motion to accept this MOU as presented?
I'll make that motion. Go ahead. I'll second. Go ahead.
All right, we'll take Vice Mayor's motion and Commissioner Sacks' second. Comment? Go ahead.
Is that with closing on the 3rd, election day?
No, we're gonna ask them.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. We had a motion, we had a second. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Clooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kyle. All right, item 8A, so these are second readings of public hearing. 8A, this is a public hearing to consider an appeal on a proposed pool at 719 Grape Ivy Lane. Brian?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is an appeal of staff's interpretation of our land development regulations. The applicants are here, they're Andrew and Jacqueline Belisle. The address is 719 Grape Ivy Lane. The applicants are appealing staff's interpretation of section 804.03B of the LDR, which would prohibit the installation of a swimming pool on the side of their home facing Solosia Drive. And this is an aerial view of the property. The lot is unique. It has frontage on 3 sides. It Grape Ivy Lane is here where the driveway is. You have Sugar Mill Drive to the back, and then you have Saloisia Drive to the side yard. And the applicant submitted a permit application for a proposed in-ground swimming pool to be located on the side of the property, approximately this location where I'm pointing here. Staff denied that permit based on the LDR, which states no swimming pools shall be allowed between a public or private street and the principal structure on a lot. This lot is classified as a corner lot in the LDR, being that it has two or more streets at their intersection. It abuts two or more streets at their intersections. The lot has some characteristics of what we call a through lot, and that's where you have two parallel streets, one in the front, one in the back. However, the LDR is specific that in this situation, it is not considered a through lot. That is important because the through lot has an exception to allow swimming pools on the side where you do not have the driveway. So for example, the neighbor's house to the north there, they do have a swimming pool. That is a classic through lot, streets in the front, streets in the back. They have room for a pool. In your agenda packet is the applicant's appeal letter and supporting documents. One of the considerations identified is, it's hard to see here, but this is an HOA-owned wall along the side of the property, and there's an entrance feature here. That would certainly help to screen a proposed swimming pool at this location. However, we didn't feel like that alone would remove the requirement for the pool being, still be considered to be between the home and the street. Based on this lot layout, if you look at it, it really does seem like the builder intended to give a very generous side yard, and they gave a very constrained backyard. In this case, this is a landscape easement behind the home. So unlike the other homes to the north, it's infeasible to build a pool in the rear of the property. So I'm not sure if the builder had in mind to put a pool here, just gave a larger yard, but it certainly looks like there was some effort to compensate for the constrained rear yard. But in conclusion, our interpretation is that the pool does not meet the LDR. However, if the commission was inclined to make an interpretation in favor of the applicant, we would recommend that it be limited to some very specific circumstances for this property. And those are three items. First, it has 3 frontages. Second, that it would have a rear yard that's constrained where it would be infeasible to construct a pool. And then third, that there would be a wall or other opaque fence along the side of the property that would screen it from view from the side there. So that's my brief overview. I know, unless you have any questions, I know the applicants here would like to speak.
Okay. Before we go to the public hearing, we definitely will hear from you all. Any questions of staff before we go to the public hearing?
I'm going to wait till after the
All right.
application.
All right, we'll open up for public hearing.
Quick question for Brian.
Okay,
Mayor,
sorry.
Just a quickie. Do you
I
know the
looked that way
speed
quick.
limit?
Go ahead.
Sorry, the speed limit? 30?
The speed limit on which road?
Well, the one in the front of the house, I would say each road.
All residential, Commissioner Sachs, they're 30 miles per hour.
I'm sorry,
All residential, they're 30 miles per hour.
30.
30.
Thanks, that's what I thought.
Vice Mayor?
Just on your interpretation, which I tend to agree with, assuming your ruling is upheld, do they have any other method to obtain a variance to construct the pool? Because it seems to me that there are circumstances that would allow that to be done. I just think it's important to hold up our interpretation, your interpretation.
They would have the option to apply for a variance, which would go to the Planning and Zoning Board. It's a unique set of criteria they'd have to satisfy for that, showing a hardship to the property, but that would be the other option.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing. We'll open it to hear from the public, and I think this is the applicant in this case, so,
Yes, sir.
but other members of the public can speak after this. So yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you so much. My name is Jacqueline Belle-Isle, and this is my husband, Andrew. And we just wanted to come before you and try to explain kind of where we're coming from. So as you can see, we're surrounded by streets on 3 sides, and it's actually not on this one. I'm not sure how to use the clicker. But there is, our property line actually continues all the way to the sidewalk in the rear. So we actually own all of the property where that landscape easement is. The HOA has kind of claimed that, so our land has been sacrificed for the good of the neighborhood, which in and of itself we were fine with because, as Mr. Fields pointed out, the compensation was a generous side yard. Oh yes, there it is. So you can see the red line is actually our property line. The HOA wall cuts in along the back, creating a landscape easement. And so because of that, our backyard is not suitable for a pool, which is why we submitted a request to put it in the side yard. It would be, if you're looking at that, it would be more or less where the play set is. That little brown thing that you see is the roof of our children's play set. So it would be about there, just for reference. We did push it as close to the back as we basically could. And if you are driving along the entrance there on Selosha Drive, if you look in, I actually emailed all of you a picture from my minivan right out the window that shows you cannot see into the backyard at all, which I believe, if I actually went through some previous variance hearings that I believe Mr. Fields sent me, or it might have been Mr. Baker, and the staff's concern about pools being between the house and the road is that there were two things that came up. One is that it's basically an eyesore. I think they phrased it more nicely, but that was the essence of it. And then the other thing is that it is a distraction to motorists. Those were the two concerns given as to why the LDR exists. Well, you can't see it from the road, so that satisfies both the eyesore issue as well as the distraction issue, right? A motorist driving by is just going to see a wall. It will not look any different than it does right now. It will actually look better once we plant areca palms, which is our intent, right along that neighborhood wall. There'd be about 6 feet, 5 or 6 feet of areca palms right along there. So that would be all you would see is wall and tree. Yeah, I think I went into a lot more detail in our letter, which I believe you all had ahead of time. So if you have any questions about any of that, I'm happy to address it. I think that's about it.
Okay.
Oh, and we do have a couple of our neighbors here.
Yep.
These are actually, if you're looking at it, the house immediately next to us is Miss Lucy Bernard, and then on the other side is Miss Regina Grant, and they both offered to come and speak with us. Oh, and we also have a support letter from all of our neighbors within 150 feet. They all signed off on it. The only one that you will see is missing is actually a snowbird, so I couldn't get her signature. And then we also have an approval from our HOA Design Review Board, and they are picky about everything from your house color to your shrubs. So the fact that they approved it, I think, should say a lot. So with that, I would just like to ask my neighbors if they would like to come and speak.
Sure. Thank you. Did you want to? You good?
Hi.
Okay. Go ahead.
My name is Lucy Bernard. I'm the next door neighbor to this beautiful family. She also has 2 little girls. They are the nicest people you can have as neighbors. And this family would be more than happy to have a pool like we all do. You know, we're all swimming around them and they're in there just like cooking. So I'd be more than happy to have them help them and just whatever they need for us to be part of their future pool.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. That means a lot. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Regina Grant, and I live 1 house away from her. And this is a beautiful family, more children, wonderful addition to New Smyrna Beach, just what we need in this area, young people. They take beautiful care of their property. They literally have, I think, 6 inches when they walk out of the back of their house to the wall. And the side pool would be wonderful. They could put up a gate for the safety of their children. And I think they're just going to beautify the area. I consider it their backyard. They have a beautiful side yard. And we would have no problem with it.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Any other members of the public wish to comment on this item? It's just this item. All right. If not, so we're going to have a commission discussion now. If you guys want to hang out, we will, if we have questions for you, we'll call you back up. And if not, we'll have a discussion. Yes, go ahead.
One question, what's the approximate size of the pool?
It is 25 feet long by 12 feet wide, and that's actually coping to coping. So water's edge to water's edge is 23 feet 8 inches by 10 feet 8 inches.
All right. Vice Mayor, discussion.
Well, I certainly sympathize with you for the situation that your house has put you in and the builder has put you in. But I just think you're here at the wrong place. I think this belongs before planning and zoning. You put in perfect arguments for that. You also haven't put in any testimony as to why our staff is wrong in their decision. And I do support the staff in this. I hope you recorded your presentation, and I hope if it's not approved here, that you move on to planning and zoning.
If I may just speak to that, is that okay? I don't know what the order is.
Sure, just,
Sure.
I did actually make some phone calls before we made the appeal to the commission because we weren't sure which route would be better for us. So first off, the variance route is a lot more expensive. And second off, we were assured that the commission actually does have the flexibility to grant what we're asking for. We were told that that was the case by multiple staff personnel, by multiple city personnel, that you all did have the leeway, that you did have the power to do it. Mr. Rashadat, I think as I put in my letter, was very kind, and Mr. Fields, they spent a long time with us in their office and tried to help us figure out other solutions, none of which were feasible. But they did tell us that if they could find a loophole, they would, and that you all had the authority to kind of create that loophole, if you will. So I just wanted you to know that that is why we chose this route, both because of the expense and then because we were told that you did have that authority. So we didn't just try to sidestep.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for staff. Brian, if I took staff's interpretation of this, what is the intent of the ordinance in the LDR?
I think the intent is to not have pools exposed for view in front yards. And it's applied here, a corner lot has 2 front yards, so we're applying that same logic to the side yard. But the idea is to keep pools behind the principal plane or the side of the building where it faces.
Okay, thank you. So, I think one of our responsibilities is sitting up here as the governing body is to take ordinances and laws and review them and see where they may not apply in specific cases and to deal with those as we see reasonable. Clearly, the side yard is not a front yard, and I don't think that you're going to be able to see the pool, and it will not be a distraction or a hindrance. The HOA has accepted this, the neighbors accept it. I think that this family meets the criteria and surpasses what the intent of the ordinance is. So even if I agreed with staff that this met the ordinance, the intent of the ordinance is preventing these people, has been met. In other words, these people are not doing anything to harm the ordinance. So I see no reason why we wouldn't allow them. You talk about a variance. I served on planning and zoning. I know what it means to try to get a variance. Number one, it's expensive. It's $1,000. And I'm looking at a young family here who's coming before us and saying, hey, I need you to give us a reading on this, and I would not expect us to have a young family like this have to go and pay $1,000 to get a planning and zoning board opinion. The planning and zoning board is also very subjective to their own opinions on whether or not the criteria are met. And there's a big question on whether or not those criteria have actually been met. I'm far more comfortable with us allowing the use of a pool than planning and zoning determining that. And if planning and zoning denied them, we'd end up back here with whether or not we would approve them. So I think I can support this because the intent of the ordinance is not being harmed. Thank you.
comment, go ahead.
I just want to, Commissioner McGurk, when they appealed it to the city manager, I have sat down with Brian and both the husband and wife. Personally, without looking at the LDR, it does make sense to have the pool there. But I couldn't find anything in the LDR to justify what I was thinking. So the logic, it was there, but the LDR did not help it.
Yes, I understand.
And it made it very difficult because of where the lot is situated, where they created an entrance landscaping, so they took a portion of their property, and it made it difficult for them. However, that area right there and where they have the wall, I think it makes it a feasible option and location for the pool, but I just couldn't find anything to support my logic.
Thank you, City Manager, and that's exactly why we're up here, because we have the ability to make that ruling. Thank you.
Other comments? No? I'll come back to you. Let's make sure everybody speaks at least once. My question for staff is kind of going in, because I tend to agree with everything Commissioner McGurk said. I think even Commissioner Clody from his comments, or Vice Mayor Clody, agrees that, this is a great, this is probably the right thing to do. The question to me is just how do we get there the right way? So, Brian, I guess my question for you is, what I don't want to do is create this loophole or this gray area where now all of a sudden, I mean, we kind of went through this with stop signs, and all of a sudden now we got 1,000 stop signs request. And so I don't want to open up this loophole where we're now the arbiters of every time someone disagrees with our LDR or staff's opinion, they don't want to go to P&Z. Are you comfortable that this is a unique enough case that this doesn't exist all over New Smyrna Beach, and we're not going to have signed ourselves up for hours and hours and hours of constantly being the, trumping staff's, I know I'm not making sense here, but you see what I'm saying? Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, I think it is unique. If those three conditions that I mentioned are tied to it, the three frontages, the wall on one side, and most notably the constrained backyard that really would inhibit the ability to put in a pool. Those are unique, that we would not have a wide range of these throughout town.
But we could definitely have other things where they also feel they're very unique. And so right now, if we weren't doing this as what we're calling an appeal, the normal route, if I can say that, would be, let's say money was no object, it would be to go to P&Z, and they would have the chance to either approve or deny this based on criteria as a variance. We would request as a variance. And then if the answer wasn't to the applicant's liking, they could choose to further appeal that ruling to the city commission. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct. I would add that a variance, this is really unique. It's really, some cities have what would be called a waiver, because a variance is typically a modification of an existing rule, like a setback's 20 feet and you're going to make it 10. That goes to planning and zoning. This is a little bit different, is there's a rule and they're asking you to waive that rule in a very unique set of circumstances. So we don't really have that particular device available to us.
Okay.
So that's part of the reason why it's here tonight.
All right, that's what I want to get at, is this isn't opening us up to some, like, I don't want to do planning and zoning's job in this meeting, is I guess my ultimate thing. We've got great members on P&Z, we're going to appoint some more tonight. I don't want to circumvent that whole thing and, by this one action, all of a sudden now we become that board because they have their own purpose to fulfill. So you're comfortable that that's not what we're doing. All right. Vice Mayor, go ahead.
No, I just want to repeat that we have land development regulations, that we ask our staff to help people out, make them understand exactly what they are. When there is a difficulty with it and circumstances such as here, there is an outlet for it, is planning and zoning, which we also established in our ordinances, and that is their purpose. That's all I have to say.
Okay. All right. We'll finish discussion. Commissioner Sachs, any comments, or if not, I'll take a motion on this item.
Let's make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Go ahead.
Make a motion to approve, but Brian, was there anything you wanted me to add to that?
Three criteria.
Three conditions are, has three frontages, the rear yard is constrained such that a pool installation is infeasible, and there is a fence or wall located between the proposed pool and the side street.
Okay, so my motion is made with staff's addition of the three items.
Three criteria, okay. Do I have a second to that
Please
motion?
repeat the three items. I could not hear you, Brian.
Property has three frontages. The property's rear yard is constrained such that the installation of a pool is infeasible. And third, there is a fence or wall located on the side street between the proposed pool and the road.
In the chance that this may happen again, that you would put those conditions on it?
That would be our recommendation for this condition. This may happen somewhere else, it's pretty rare.
Right.
But
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we had a motion that included those three conditions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. And I think what adding those conditions does, from talking with Brian before the meeting, is it makes it where, frankly, if something doesn't come with those criteria, probably, I think the staff's advice may be, listen, it's probably not, this same request without any one of those three probably would elicit a different response from me, so. Okay, we had a motion, we had a second. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Clooney?
No.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Items approved. Thank you all. Enjoy your pool. You have good neighbors, too. It sounds like you are a good neighbor as well, so.
We're gonna have a big party.
All right. You'll have a big party when that's finished.
Not too big with that pool.
Okay, item 8B, ordinance number 10620, second reading, public hearing, would rezone 41 acres. City attorney will read this ordinance a second time by title only.
Ordinance number 10620, an ordinance rezoning approximately 41.2 plus or minus acres of land generally located west of Turnbull Bay Road, south of Whispering Pines Drive, from Volusia County A3 Transitional Agriculture and RC Resource Corridor to City Planned Unit Development Zoning District, approving the Hidden Lakes Village Planned Unit Development Master Development Agreement, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. This item was advertised for tonight's meeting, but it was always scheduled for the November 10th meeting. So staff is requesting a continuance to preserve the newspaper notice that advertised it for tonight's meeting.
And ordinance 101-20, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Hartman, second by Sacks. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll.
Vice Mayor Clooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm hearing a ring over there. I don't know if any, he's working on it. All right. 8F, ordinance 103-20. This is rezone 16.7 acres from R2 to residential estate and A2 agriculture. This is a down zoning, remember, I just want to point that out every time.
This is the first time I've ever seen it, and probably the last time.
The first time ever, yep, that's right. City attorney will read these ordinances the second time by title only.
Just for the record, the comprehensive plan has been sent off to the state, so that second reading won't happen until we hear word back from them. But the rezoning is on for tonight, and the effective date hinges upon the comprehensive plan amendment, but we can go ahead and handle it tonight.
Okay.
Ordinance number 10320, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach rezoning 16.7 plus or minus acres of property located north of Pioneer Trail, west of North Glencoe Road, east of Luella Street, addressed as 647 Luella Street, from City R2 single-family residential and RE residential estate to City A2 agricultural zoning district, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
All right, gentlemen, same thing on ex parte. Vice Mayor, anything to disclose on this one?
None.
Commissioner Sacks.
Nothing to disclose.
Commissioner McGurk.
Nope.
Commissioner Hartman.
Nothing.
I have none also. Mr. Nathan, you are still under oath. Are you familiar with the ordinance and regarding the property located at Luella Street, 647?
I am familiar with the application.
Please state whether it's consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and share your recommendations on this property.
This application is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, and staff recommends approval.
Okay, would any member of the commission or the applicant wish to question Mr. Maythemann's testimony? Seeing none, we'll now hear from any members of the public or witnesses that would like to speak on this item. Seeing none come forward, we will now close the quasi-judicial and public hearing, and the city commission will now consider ordinance 10320. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 103-20?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Second, and I need to amend, I did actually speak to someone who lives nearby this property. I was calling to confirm that I was actually reading it correctly, and the person wanted downzone it.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Clarification on some ex parte there. All right. So we had a motion by Vice Mayor, a second by Commissioner McGurk. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Colodey?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance 103-20 has been adopted. Thank you, Bob. 8G 105-20, second reading and public hearing, which would designate the New Smyrna Golf Club course, a local landmark. City Attorney, read this a second time by title only.
Ordinance number 10520, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach establishing the New Smyrna Beach Golf Course located at 1000 Wayne Avenue as a historic landmark in the City of New Smyrna Beach, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Okay. Mr. Mathan, do you have a report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It's the goal of the Historic New Smyrna Beach Preservation Commission to designate at least one property each year as a local landmark. This year, the commission nominated the New Smyrna Beach Golf Club course to be designated as a local landmark. At their September 16th, 2020 meeting, their vote was 7-0. The New Smyrna Golf Club course was designed by a famous golf architect, which is Donald Ross. Mr. Ross has designed close to 400 golf courses, including the famous Pinehurst No. 2 in North Carolina. This course was designed in 1947, was one of the last courses designed by Mr. Ross. Mr. Ross passed away in 1948 and was inducted to the World Golf Hall of Fame in 1977. The first 9 holes were open to play in 1949, with the final completion of the course in 1956. The local landmark designation would be for the course itself, since it's tied to Mr. Ross. The structures located on the property would not be included since they were constructed at a later date and would have no tie to Mr. Ross. In August 2018, the club was listed as a partner on the Florida Historical Golf Trail, and the application has to meet at least one of the criteria to be eligible for this designation. Since the application meets 6 out of the 8 criteria, staff would recommend the City Commission to designate the New Smyrna Golf Club course as a local landmark due to the history and architectural value to the city. And that's the subject of my report.
Thank you, Bob. It's a public hearing. Any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 105-20?
I would like that motion, to make that motion, and I do have comments if it's seconded.
All right.
Second.
We have a second. Go ahead, Commissioner, Vice Mayor.
As was stated, this is based on the fact it was designed by a very prominent person. And as a person who does play golf and was out there earlier today, I can testify that each golf course designer has particular things that he includes in his design. And this course has all of those features. We may think of it as a simple municipal course that's not really that great in length or size and pretty compact, but some of the features that were designed in there make it a quite difficult course to play. So I think this is well deserved.
Okay. We had a motion. We had a second. Go ahead, Commissioner.
So this just is the course itself and doesn't necessarily include the buildings or the structures?
That is correct. It's just the course itself.
Okay.
So this would not hinder any type of maintenance issues or
Okay.
buildings that need to be either torn down or replaced or built.
Okay.
It's just the course and the layout of the course and the design itself.
Thank you.
Okay. I wish I had as much time to play golf. I tried to play one time. It was hard. So.
You'll have to come out sometime.
What's that? Yeah. Once one of us is no longer the commission, we can we can do that. All right, we had a motion, we had a second. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cloney?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item 8H, thank you, Bob. Second reading quasi of a public hearing of an ordinance would approve a second amendment to the Ocean Gate PUD, Master Development and Conceptual Development Plan. We will now, City Attorney will read ordinance 10720 a second time.
Ordinance number 10720, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the Ocean Gate PUD Master Development Agreement and Conceptual Development Plan, authorizing the mayor to execute the Second Amendment to the Ocean Gate Commerce Center Master Planned Unit Development Agreement, providing for a public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. In accordance with City Code Section 2147B2, a request has been made for any written communications related to this item, and all responsive records have been submitted to the applicant and the city clerk. If anyone has any ex parte communications or site visits or expert opinions to disclose, now is the time to do it. This includes the substance of any communications and identity of the person with whom the communications took place, any details on the site visits, or any additional written communications that have not already been disclosed. We'll start with the Vice Mayor Colodi.
I haven't been to the site other than driving by it. I have no written communications with anybody on this. I did meet with a Mr. Mike Lopez, who's principal either in the firm or person promoting it, which he pointed out the changes that were made, and basically that was it.
Have you had an opportunity to review the written materials that have been submitted to you for consideration tonight on this item?
Yes, I have.
Is there anything you heard or were told as part of any ex parte conversations regarding this item that are not included in the written record that has already been submitted with the clerk?
None.
Will your vote tonight be based solely on the written record submitted and the oral testimony given tonight on this item?
Yes, I will.
Commissioner Sacks, do you ex parte disclosures?
Yes, in the previous commission, I had an ex parte, a verbal one with Mr. Lopez and Mr. Snowden regarding their wishes for this property in the future.
Have you had an opportunity to review the written materials that have been submitted to you for consideration tonight on this item?
Only preliminary sketches, drawings.
In the staff report and the other items that have been submitted, you've reviewed
Yes, it's
those?
very hard to recall. I think they were provided by the applicants.
I'm talking about the agenda item, the staff report, the
Tonight,
items. Yes. Is there anything you've heard or been told as a part of any ex parte conversations regarding this item that are not included in what you've reviewed for tonight's material?
No.
Will your vote tonight be based solely on the written record submitted and the oral testimony given tonight on this item?
Yes.
All right, Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Any ex parte disclosures?
No, I did receive one email from Mike Lopez requesting a meeting that I realized earlier this week I forgot to respond to. So, sorry, Mike.
Have you
There
had
you
an
go.
opportunity to review the written materials that have been submitted to you for consideration tonight on this item?
Yes.
You've already stated no ex parte conversations. Will your vote tonight be based solely on the written record submitted and the oral testimony given tonight on this item?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk, any ex parte disclosures?
Yes, I've had meetings and discussions with Mike Lopez and Mr. Snowden, both senior and I guess would be a junior. Both from previous times and recent regarding this agenda item.
Have you had an opportunity to review the written materials that have been submitted to you for consideration tonight on this item?
Yes.
Is there anything you heard or were told as part of those ex parte conversations regarding this item that were not included in this written record?
No.
Will your vote tonight be based solely on the written record submitted and the oral testimony given tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Hartman. Disclosures?
Yes, over the last 4 years, I've met with Mr. Lopez and Mr. Snowden Senior to discuss this. I've attended both the planning and zoning meetings where this was presented before planning and zoning. And then most recently met with Mr. Lopez and the younger Mr. Snowden to discuss what they had presented at the P&Z and to have some conversations about what they actually had planned going forward.
Have you had an opportunity to review the written materials that have been submitted to you for consideration tonight?
Yes, I have.
Is there anything you heard or were told as a part of those ex parte conversations that are not included in this written record that's before you?
Yes, in our most recent conversation, we talked about security issues going forward, possibly helping out with some infrastructure and helping with the police department in doing some video stuff going forward, and they both seemed amenable to that idea.
Other than that particular conversation and the written record and any oral testimony tonight, will your decision tonight be based on any other evidence?
Yes, it will. Just on tonight's?
Okay.
Okay.
So for the record, it will be based on the conversation regarding the infrastructure, the written record, and any oral testimony submitted.
That's, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll now hear from Chief Planner Gove. You are still under oath.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth,
Oh,
the
sorry,
whole truth,
different
and
one.
nothing but
Sorry.
the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Where did Bob go? Y'all pulled a, I read the name here, but I thought it was Bob still standing up there. My bad. All right. If you would, please state your full legal name and give your educational professional background.
My name is Jeffrey Gove. I'm Chief Planner and have been since 2012. I've been a practicing professional planner in the state of Florida for over 30 years and have been a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners for the last 25 years.
Okay. Does any member of the audience or the commission wish to question Mr. Gove on his professional qualifications? If not, are there any objections to qualifying him as an expert witness in the area of land development? Hearing no objections, Mr. Gove is determined to be an expert in the area of land development and qualified to give an opinion testimony concerning these matters. Mr. Gove, are you familiar with Ordinance 107-20 regarding the Ocean Gate PUD?
Yes, I am.
Please state whether it's consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and share your recommendation on the Ocean Gate PUD.
Yes, we've found it consistent with the comprehensive plan for its activity center, future land use designation, and the other comp plan elements, and are recommending approval.
Okay. Would any member of the commission or the applicant wish to question Mr. Gove on his testimony? Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I did take a look at the plan. I know it goes back a number of years, and since it was originally approved, we've modified our wetlands criteria concerning density. We've also increased the landscaping requirements along 44. Are those items addressed in this revised plan?
They're not specifically addressed in this plan. There's a proposed hotel as part of this Second Amendment that does have a density calculation associated with it. So we didn't go to that aspect of calculating the density, except for the fact that I guess I need to start from the beginning with where we are in the plan. This is 181 acres. That's PUD that was first approved in 2013. First amendment to the PUD was approved in 2017, which added just under 3-acre property. Didn't really add it, but it was called for its development for the racetrack and the entrance road at the signalized intersection. And the second amendment is now for a few different items, but one is for a change to the conceptual plan to allow more definitive development of the north 47 acres. That's proposed to be developed into 10 lots. One of those lots is for a proposed Holiday Inn, and they have submitted, along with this application, concurrent applications for subdivision of the property and a site plan for that Holiday Inn. We reviewed those and gave comments, and I actually reviewed the Holiday Inn plan for density within its own property, without consideration of wetlands. But that's something that we haven't addressed with the applicant. That's maybe a question as far as what the Second Amendment would consist of, but again, we were using the old PUD documents.
Jeff, I could interject there. The wetlands ordinance that we passed last year for the residential density would not, this application would not be impacted by that. So.
Right, as far as I remember, the PUD has no residential component. The only thing is transient lodging. That does have a density calculation. I'm not sure if our new density
No,
they
this
don't
would not-
apply
it would
to
not
transient
impact
lodging?
This
Okay.
project, so. Jeff, could you address the landscaping component of the question?
Sure, the landscaping, this was based on the previous buffer requirements that applied throughout the COZ, where there was typically a 45-foot landscape buffer, which consisted of the 25-foot utility easement and a 20-foot landscape buffer area behind that, which in the activity center, as you'll see in some of the areas like Walmart where it's built, that actually contains a 10-foot sidewalk within it, seating. It's kind of a unique feature designed for the activity center, the four quadrants of 95 and 44. Their plan that they've submitted, the subdivision plan, shows that 45-foot easement or buffer width as the MDA requires. I actually looked at the landscape plan for the subdivision for the 44 frontage and calculated their proposed trees, and they actually exceed what's the minimum requirement in the new COZ buffer. Even though the new COZ buffer is 50 feet, they have more trees in their 20 feet of linear frontage than what would be required in the COZ. So the COZ requirements don't apply to this area because it's activity center, but what they proposed would provide more landscape materials than the minimum now required in the COZ.
So the answer is no.
It's not the 50-foot dimensional width that is required in the COZ, but again, our LDR and I think the comp plan specifically say the activity center is not contained within the COZ.
So in other words,
The new landscape regulations do not apply to this area, but if you compare them, this is
In excess, it's
hardier than what we would require in the COZ.
less area, but more trees and shrubs.
I understand this is an area that's going to be very highly and densely developed, which I honestly don't have too much problem with. I do have a little bit of difficulty with the appearance from 44. And I know that when a different PUD came up for a modification, approximately a quarter mile to the east along 44, the developer was more than happy to amend his plan, or as part of his amended plan, to include that additional buffer width. And I would like to see that in this plan. Granted, it's only 5 feet in width and probably won't result in more trees. But as we look down along 44, especially where the new apartments are, we can see how important those buffers are. And if we want to maintain the appearance along that road, I would like to see that, even if it's an additional 5 feet. I wanted to see that in the plan. Will there be an opportunity later on in this approval process to request the developer to add that width?
There would be, but it would be as the very end step of the design process. The pending subdivision application that they submitted at the same time as this one, again, we reviewed it, we gave them comments. They didn't move further because it's dependent on this MDA amendment. So if it came to you, again, it would be as a subdivision approval, and at that point, it would have been a few months or even maybe a year since the original submittal, and to add more area to the buffer at that time would be kind of almost after the fact. It would be a last-minute change, and if it's going to be done, it may be better done at this point.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, can I elicit questions from Mr. Gove? and
Yeah,
come back
please
to you?
do.
All right.
I'm thinking this over.
I thought so. All right. Any other questions from the commission of Mr. Gove on his testimony? Or the applicant, any questions of Mr. Gove? And if not, we'll hear from the applicant at this time if they have a presentation.
I may have skipped over a few of the elements that are part of the
Okay.
amendment.
Go ahead.
Just to go through them briefly, what this does is add 3 new uses: car wash, mini warehouse, a wave pool. Those may or may not be in the second phase. The wave pool, we asked them to add a definition for that in this amendment because we don't have one in our LDR. There's another request change in here for the floor area ratio, FAR. That is requested to be changed from the existing 0.5 to a 0.6, and that would be just for the Lot 7 Holiday Inn proposed site plan. We do have that site plan in, as I mentioned. We did review it. This current floor area ratio for that Holiday Inn Lot 7 property is now 0.58. So that site plan can't go forward unless this change is made or the property's altered in some other way, maybe providing more lot area. So that's one other significant part here. Another part deals with how the roadways are called. They were, the MDA calls for them to be internal drives, 70-foot right-of-way. They were always intended to be private drives, maintained by the property owner, not maintained by the city. So their request was to change those to easements, which serve the same purpose as far as we're concerned. The width would go from 70 feet to 64, but they would still have the same components of the 2 bike lanes on each side and 2 sidewalks on each side of the road. So we were okay with that change. So just to finalize what the components of this are.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Kelly, I just saw you asking them, are the screens not working at the moment? Is that what's happening?
I'm not quite sure. We're having technical difficulties, but not on our side of the house.
Okay, I just didn't know if the
So
screens are gonna work. Is that crucial to your presentation, or if it's stuff that's in the agenda package, we can all pull it up here. If it's not, then,
I think we can wing it.
okay, we'll try to get those working. If not, I saw somebody go run. Look at that, there we go.
There we go. As if
Thank
on
you.
order. That's power, Mayor.
Okay, so we'll now hear from the applicant.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. For the record, Mark Watts with the law firm of Cobb Cole, 231 North Woodland Boulevard, DeLand. We have let me start off by thanking Jeff and Brian and the rest of your staff for working with us. Maybe?
Yeah, we're getting.
I've had nonstop computer issues for the past 2 days, so I'm guessing it's me. Hopefully we'll see if it works here. Maybe? There we go. In any event, thank you to your staff. They've been great to work with as we've kind of worked through the issues. This is really kind of a number of housekeeping items that really resulted in the need to come through and do a major amendment to address a couple of points. So let me walk through just on the slide here the points with regard to the major pieces of the amendment that's proposed for you this evening. Kind of the first amendment, again, updating the conceptual development plan. I'll talk about that and show you a map in a minute. There's a couple of reasons for it. Jeff referenced the kind of change in configuration of some of the roadways. I'll show you on the next slide how that helps avoid substantial wetland impacts that were in the original conceptual development plan attached to the approved PD. So I'll walk you through that in just a second. I also wanted to point out, I do recognize, go back here. Is this working, or is it just me or you?
That was you.
Okay. I did create a new word, and I forgot to update again that before, since the P&Z meeting, but it updates certain criteria, not criteria in. in the MDA relating to the CDP and some of the buffering and lot standards, so I'll walk you through that as well. And then updates allowable uses to reflect 3 additional uses that we're asking to include in the PD. So let me first also mention that I've got Mike Hale with TEDS Engineering here. He's our civil engineer on the project. He's here to answer any questions you might have from a technical standpoint. And then Vince Snowden and Mike Lopez, who are the owners, and Ocean Gate LLC. So with that, let's see. There we go. I think it's now armed.
Okay, can you just flip the slides go? Just.
Yeah. I'm pointing in the wrong direction now. Okay. All right, so the next slide we're going to see is kind of on the left you have the existing CDP that's attached to the approved PD. So you can see there's a primary road that comes in and runs along the power line easement, sort of from the north down to the south, and then you've got the secondary road that comes around here. What we have done, the primary reason that we wanted to update the CDP is we're proposing to bring the road in, make with the existing power line easement, one of the criteria that we have to meet to satisfy the power company is to cross as near a 90-degree angle, cross under their lines as possible, and obviously in between the structures they have there. And so that's one of the reasons why we've got this coming in and then kind of curving under that to serve all of the property and reduce the amount of pavement in the additional roads that need to come in there. You'll see it a little bit better on the next slide, but this area right here is one of the principal wetland areas on the site. And if you see, the existing CDP really kind of cuts right through the middle of that. So one of the benefits of kind of this rerouting and reconfiguration of the roadway is not severing that wetland with a road crossing. So we think that certainly provides a benefit to it.
Can you orient me? Is the racetrack visible in here at all? Is that top left corner?
Racetrack is right here.
That's what I figured. All right, thank you.
So this is racetrack. It's on the existing, CDP as well. So yes, and so you've got 44 running along, here on the north side, and then the interstate frontage along here. Okay. So this is just we wanted to help kind of show you the different development criteria. It's a little bit hard to see in here, but we tried to provide some green in here that shows where we've got some of the landscape buffering that's specifically called out in the criteria in the update. Obviously, this is the new roadway alignment. This remains the 120-foot right-of-way. These are the roadways that we are proposing to take from public roadways, keep them private, keep them privately maintained, but still provide for the same profile from the standpoint of bike lanes, sidewalks, trails, things of that nature. Just have it in a private easement that is privately maintained but open to the public. So that was one of the shifts in the overall criteria. And again, you can see this is that wetland area that I mentioned, before the road actually came right through here and severed, would have created an impact to that wetland area if we had tried to go through and permit it that way. Don't know if that, even would have been permittable, but obviously this configuration avoids that overall impact. With regard to the uses, right now the existing PD does allow car washes. It allows them as an accessory or an additional portion of a gas station or convenience store. So this just clarifies that it also can be a standalone use, citing to the existing definitions in your code. So we're just using the same definitions and use that's defined by the LDC and allowing that as a principal use. It adds warehouses, mini warehouses, again defined by your existing code as a potential use. Obviously, that is something that we're looking at that farther to the south. If you look at the overall layout, we would anticipate that use, kind of down in this area rather than up closer to the road. I think that has a couple of benefits from a landowner standpoint. It is certainly a valuable use. From a community standpoint, though, it's a very low traffic generator. And so I think that there's a benefit to that use being provided in the overall mix because it does take some of the land and guarantee that it would be, if it's developed as that, it would be a lower overall traffic generation rate. And then finally, wave pool is included and defined as a use. Now, when we started this process with staff, we were looking at, what's a wave pool? When we got our traffic engineers to look at it, the only thing they could come up with was water park. That scared all of us because we didn't want that type of traffic or trip generation type, thing associated with it. So what our clients, and Mike Lopez, I'm sure, has mentioned this in some of his discussions, they are working with a company called Perfect Swell to actually bring a surfable wave to one of the phases within the project. Primarily, this is expected to go in this area here. That's phase 3 on the CDP that is attached to the amendment. But we defined it as a use that would be limited to 20 participants an hour. So this is something where you actually can, and I've talked to a number of folks, not just in New Smyrna, but former county council member Josh Wagner actually called me up unsolicited and said, I heard, this particular wave pool has gained a following around the country. It apparently is considered a very, one of the better surfable waves that you can build a facility to provide. And Josh indicated he was very excited to try and come down here and be able to surf this particular facility. So, with the beach and the focus on surfing that New Smyrna has historically had, we think this is an interesting potential to add into the mix for the overall development that can provide a feature for people to maybe turn off a little bit earlier than coming into the beach fully and still be able to enjoy surfing in New Smyrna. So, with that, happy to answer any questions you may have. I think that kind of covers the specific things we were asking to revise in the overall PD. I will note, as with regard to things like the development criteria that are associated with the activity center, we have maintained all of that. We're not asking to change any of those. So the criteria that I think the city, published that design criteria booklet. It's attached as a portion of the original plan development approval for the site. None of that is being requested to change. We're maintaining that there's a lot of very high architectural standards and appearance standards in that, and also very intense landscaping standards, for example. So, Mr. Colati, to your, or Vice Mayor Colati, to your point, while it's a 45-foot buffer that's required under those design criteria, which applies at all 4 quadrants of the interchange, because it's not in the COZ area that you're referring to, it is, I think the intensity of the plantings is more so under that standard. So we think you're getting a functional equivalent, if you will, to that updated standard. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Before we go there, I should disclose, when you said Josh Wagner reminded me, he also called me to say that he was super excited about it. Didn't really enter any evidence, but just he was really excited about it. So.
Yeah. That's pretty much what he said to me too when he called me as well.
All
Josh,
right,
if you don't know, Josh is a passionate surfer, and I think his first and last things that he did on the county council, the first thing he tried to do was reduce the setbacks on the Sunglow Pier so that surfers could surf closer to that, and they denied that at that point, and his last meeting, we actually got it approved and cut those setbacks in half because that was one of those big things that he wanted to do in his time in office. So
I didn't know that, and this is I think the first time I've heard from him since being elected, so he obviously is passionate about this. But,
yeah.
All right, do we have any, let's see where I'm at on my script here. Heard from the applicant. Any questions of the applicant? Questions of the applicant? Vice Mayor.
I appreciate your comments on the landscaping buffer. Would there be any detriment to you to increasing the width of that buffer 5 feet?
The difficulty, I think, would be, so this project has been underdeveloped for a number of years. We have a portion of it that was already developed under the existing standards. So I think the difficulty would be created, certainly it wouldn't affect the overall property. It would affect the properties along 44, so those out parcels that are already kind of sized and configured based on both the road, right-of-way to the north, the access road that will go behind them to the south. So that additional 5 feet would create some constraints on their overall site plan layouts. But again, we've actually added more intensity from the landscaping standard into the area that's between them and the 44 right-of-way.
On the subject of turning that one road into an access easement, you would be then running the individual parcel property lines out to the center of that easement?
That will likely be, when we plat it, it'd actually be a platted easement that would come in there. So, no, it would be an easement that goes across there. It would be a tract maintained by the owners association.
But the actual size of the individual lots would be greater.
Based on the 6-foot reduction in the right-of-way width? Because they're going from 70 feet, which is what the current requirement is, to 64 feet.
Okay, under the current standards now, the property lines for those individual parcels runs to the sideline of that 70-foot.
Correct. Correct.
Under the new proposal, will the property lines be the center of that easement?
No. Let me ask our engineer to come up, and he's working on the plats. Let me ask him to come up and speak to that.
I think we need to swear him in, right?
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So yes, currently, as Jeff had mentioned, we have the subdivision kind of under design, and the lot lines do come all the way out to the center of that road. So while physically, effectively, it's the same width of right-of-way, same median width, same road lane width, same bike lane width, we are capitalizing on property. One of the things I'd like to mention, and Mark kind of touched on it, there is a transmission main easement. It's a FPL right-of-way easement. It might as well be right-of-way. We still pay tax on the property. They still think they own it. They don't let us develop anything within that. One of the criteria is already at the super elevation that we're proposing in this roadway, we're trying to get that roadway cutting across that transmission main easement as perpendicular as possible. And what that does is it limits those property depths. So to answer your question, Vice Mayor Pelotti, it does start impacting the depths of those usable out parcels out front. And that was one of the reasons that we're still providing the same amount of buffer width. We're just doing it on the outside of the easement as opposed to traditionally on the property perimeters of those lots. So there's effectively no difference in the planning, even though the lot line technically is in the middle of the easement.
Correct. No, I wasn't raising the issue for the, regarding landscaping, but basically you'll be increasing the area of the various lots. And will that allow you to have greater density?
We actually are maintaining the 0.5 FAR that is the existing density approved on the property. We initially, when we came in, we asked to go to a 0.6 because of the request for the Lot 7. So Lot 7, as staff mentioned, they're looking to meet both the city requirements and the requirements from Holiday Inn, which is their hotel flag that they're working to bring in. They have to have a certain size building, and so it's what's creating our FAR issue with regard to that specific lot. So at the planning board, that was raised as a concern, increasing that intensity. So rather than asking for that across the entire PD, we reduced it to only Lot 7. And so we pulled back and kept everything else at 0.5 FAR. Now, I believe under your activity center regulations, the highest FAR that's allowed in the 4 quadrants around the interchange is 2. So we're at maintaining about 25% of that maximum FAR that's permitted under the comprehensive plan for the development area here.
Yeah, my concern's not with the Holiday Inn. I have no difficulties with that at all. It's some of these smaller out parcels that you have facing 44. Is by increasing their lot areas, are we allowing more development on those properties, more floor area on it, and squeezing it into the non-right-of-way portion? That's my concern.
Certainly. No, I understand your question. I don't think we're making any, Mike, let me ask you to come up again and address this if you will. But from a development area standpoint or intensity area standpoint, are we really achieving any increase in the development potential on those lots with that configuration?
No, not in my opinion. And as a matter of fact, I mean, the Holiday Inn is somewhat of a unique piece in that it is approaching that upper limit. But by and large, when some of these other lots are developed to accommodate all the necessary services such as parking and stuff, they'll be nowhere near intense. So for instance, that large lot there, its building is not going to occupy nearly even half of its footprint. And that will offset as a whole, we'll be far less than the max cap of FAR within the project.
And actually, that was a point that Mike and I talked about as we were coming into the meeting, that, if you looked at this area, so if you looked, for example, at this phase of the developments, which is, phase 2 in here, if you looked at that area as a whole and looked at the FAR and applied the FAR across that area, we wouldn't need to look at taking Lot 7 or requesting that Lot 7 go up to a .6. I think to your specific question, we're not increasing the overall density and intensity of what's being permitted in here by going to that easement area. In fact, the only place we're even talking about increasing any density or intensity is just on that Lot 7 as a result of their design criteria.
Okay.
If I can just restate what I think I heard you asking. Basically, since you're making the lot a little bit bigger by expanding that easement, the 0.5, I mean, you're now dealing with percentages, so it's a percent of a larger number, so therefore that is a larger number. That's basically what you're getting at?
Yes.
Yeah, got it,
And
okay.
my concern is for the smaller lots.
For the smaller lots, that
are
becomes.
facing right on 44, is I
Yeah.
don't want us creating a situation where it appears very dense from the highway.
Got it.
Sure.
So that subtle change with the right-of-way and the easement could, in fact, result in kind of an unintended, perhaps, consequence. I see where you're going. I didn't follow you for a while, but I caught up.
And I think if that is the specific concern, I don't think we would have any problem specifying that the area of the easement for the roadway would not be counted towards our FAR calculation.
That would be great.
I think that's what he's going for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
happy to do that.
Yeah, thank you.
The one thing I would like to say about that is, you know, those lots, to provide all those necessary services, and like I said, I already think several of those smaller out parcels that you're asking about, they don't have any chance of coming near that max FAR already. So if we do that restriction, that further restriction that's not been, you know, part of any request or part of any plan or discussion with staff, I do have some concerns that we'll restrict them down so far that they won't get users in there, and they'll sit as out parcels, you know, just as they have across the street for a while.
Well, with that, with the restriction as proposed by the applicant, you're not reducing anything. You're maintaining what you have on your plan right now.
Maybe I misunderstood you.
So we would just take, the road area would not be included in the FAR calculation for the lot. So the area covered by the easement would be deducted.
I mean, I think we can live with it. I do think some of the smaller out parcels, we're gonna be even further restricted in terms of the likely size of the buildings that the users would want there, but I understand.
I also
Yeah.
wanted to just clarify for the public, and then we'll get to other questions. We keep, the term subdivision has been used a bit today. I think most of us think residential rooftops when you hear that.
Correct.
We're not talking about that at all. We're talking about subdivision of a broader parcel to smaller
Yeah.
parcels. So just-
Subdivision under Florida law, you know, subdivision refers to any time you're recording a map that divides property.
I hear you.
So,
Yeah, I just want to make sure. Some folks hear subdivision and they picture.
Understood.
You know,
Yeah.
it's probably
Yeah,
already on next door that there's 5,000 homes going in right there.
I'm sure that's true. Yeah, there's, as I think was previously stated, there's not a residential use proposed
Yes.
in any of this. This is commercial. There's a number of uses that are permitted, all as outlined in your activity center guidelines.
Okay. Other questions of the applicant and the witness?
Just a brief comment. Sure. I've spoken to you about this. I think what I want to make clear is I want quality, high-end development. I think the community's pretty clear on that. We're building for the next 50 years, not
Right.
what the last 50 years has been. Thank you.
Yeah, we're clear on that. I think, you know, one of the things, in fact, one of the things we've heard from Holiday Inn as they've been going through some of their site plan review is that the architectural standards and the guidelines are very hard, they're very, very stringent. And so, you know, but we're not asking to change any of that. You've got your activity center design book. It's part of, it's, you know, an attachment to the existing PD, and it remains an attachment to the existing PD.
Thank you. Mayor, you looking for a motion yet?
No, I want to make sure we've got, I think there's more we got to do, but let's get some other comments. Go ahead.
Well, Mark, I had spoken to Vince and Mike just quite some time ago, and the impression I got was that they were looking for quality. I know that some of the uses include the car wash and mini storage. So now I'm already looking at a hodgepodge, kind of haphazard. What can we put in here? What can we put in there? But what cued my interest was the theme park, the water theme park. I do have a worry about the traffic impact, but at the same time, a novel idea like that would be an interesting, I think, in my view, a good feature to add to the city. So with that thought in mind, if you're hopefully thinking at all like me, Vince and Mike and whoever develops the property, that everything is congruous and that it does look nice, that it does comply to what we've been asking for years, a nice frontage on 44, good access to the amenities, and just a question about the FAR, how does it relate to the Holiday Inn? How many rooms would you have?
So if you look at, again, you got a couple questions there, so I'll try and talk through, a couple of them. Let me start with the FAR first. So basically, the impact of that FAR is essentially a floor. So a 5-story building versus a 4-story building. That, based on typical hotel operation, is feasibility versus infeasibility with regard to that use. And so this was not part of our initial request. This is something that we've been working with the owner of that property, to kind of accommodate some of their concerns. And so that's the reason that we included that in there. Again, we felt like, in the beginning, since you have your activity center has that 2.0 FAR as the maximum, we thought, well, we can ask for 6, on all of the property. That way you're getting some more of that intensity in there. But we understood loud and clear in our discussions with planning board that there was concern about that. And so that's why we dropped back and, limited it to that. As I said, if we were calculating FAR on the broader property, we wouldn't have any problem with meeting the 0.5 FAR. I think Mike spoke to that a few minutes ago. We won't achieve 0.5 across the entire thing. But since we have to look at it on a lot-by-lot basis, that one lot becomes constrained. And so that's why we were asking for that one lot to have that 0.6 FAR to allow that to be an economically feasible hotel development meeting the criteria from the franchise.
And speaking of the water park, would that be located close to the impoundment? There's a water retention area or borrow pit?
That's exactly where we're looking to kind of develop it. So if you come down in here, there is that existing water feature borrow pit area in there that we'll be working to design it as part of that. Traffic, you mentioned your concern about traffic associated with that use. When we did our initial traffic analysis, we looked at kind of the water park definition. And you're right, that generates a lot of traffic. And so if you look on page 2 of the proposed second amendment, we included a distinct definition that's separate and apart from that definition for traditional water park. And we included specifically from a traffic standpoint that limitation on 20 participants per hour. That way you don't have a lot of people cycling in and out. You don't have a lot of arrivals and departures. If you're looking at that overall use, you have 20, and this is a graphic that was created, but this is one of the actual facilities. You would have a limited number of people in there, and that specifically is included in the definition here to keep traffic generation down. So
basically, I'm asking for a lot with not too many negotiation skills. If you could use your talents, all of you, to create something that the city could truly finally be proud of, retaining wetlands, using the water resources properly, doing the proper TIAs. I know the area's going to be real congested anyway, but if you could make it more useful, user-friendly, you guys could have something we could all be proud of.
And I think in speaking with, I've been working with Mike and Vince and Mike Hale, for a little bit over a year now on this, and consistently what I hear from them is the desire to create a quality project in the Gateway here. So I think those plans are consistent, and I think, again, that's why we have, and we haven't asked to change anything in those Gateway criteria, even though they're fairly onerous. But their intent is to create good quality development at the city's Gateway.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Question for you based on what he just raised. Walk me back through that borrow pit. I now just pulled up an aerial image, and is it going to? It's going to still be there, right? You're just going to work around it, or how's that going to? Where does that fit in?
It is. Our intent will be to work to modify that so that becomes part of what you see here. So you have a borrow pit there that is a man-made feature of the property. So to work to modify it, the way that this particular facility works, there's a mechanisms along one side, and if I get beyond my technical expertise or familiarity, I'll call Mike Lopez up because he's the one that's working with this particular developer or company. But there are mechanisms along one side of this longer pool which create the wave action. And so we'll be working with staff and all appropriate permitting agencies to take that existing borrow pit, modify it to be kind of this wave pool facility on the property.
Okay. All right, other questions of the applicant? Is that yes?
So, as I mentioned earlier, we had a discussion about public safety. And one of the things that I've mentioned to the commission a couple months ago was looking forward is concerns with the police chief having availability to possibly do some cameras for both crime prevention and also crime solving issues. And given that you're going to have a hotel in there, that seems to be, it's an easeability for people to just go by and grab and run kind of thing. So your client indicated that he'd be amenable to working with both the police chief and the planning department to work on some infrastructure needs, poles, power, that sort of thing, and then going forward to enhance the area and the whole project as a whole to be able to be provided with some security or camera systems and that sort of stuff. So is he still amenable to that? And yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're certainly happy to do that. And if you, I don't know if that needs to be incorporated here and specifically or simply stated on the record that we'll cooperate with city staff with regard to the installation of security apparatus in partnership with the police department.
I'm good with just on the record, so this time, don't let me down.
Certainly.
Okay. It's a public hearing, so we'll open it up real quick for the public. Any members? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, happy to come back up and answer any other questions you might have.
Yeah, we'll have closing remarks and everything. So any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Yes, sir. I see one coming in. Please limit your remarks to matters of which you have personal knowledge, and for this one, you get to swear in.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yes, Joe Gluback. Personal interest came up when it was mentioned that there's going to be a reduction in road width. And with all developments, including this one, I have a bit of anxiety about access being provided to emergency vehicles, the fire trucks, the ambulances, the police cars, being able to get access to where they need to be with cars parked on both or alternate sides of the road. And I hope we don't miss that point. And the second one is, is there a parking space or garage on the site that's presented? Anyway, my questions and concerns.
We'll let the applicant respond to those questions.
Yeah, I'll attempt on the roads, and Mike will kick me if I say it wrong. But I think if you look at the profiles that are in the CDP that's attached to the Second Amendment, the actual pavement width doesn't change versus the access easements versus the public right-of-way. So we're still maintaining the same travel lane width, and we have to meet all of your criteria under your land development code for emergency vehicle access and apparatus to get through and circulate through the site. So we will have to comply with all those standards and make sure that we're meeting those standards as we continue to design. So that will certainly be taken care of. With regard to parking, there's not a parking garage that's proposed as part of this at this point in time. So we would be working under your code and the standards that are in both your code, your overlay for surface parking for the site. In those roadways, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we have any on-street parking in any of those primary roadways coming in. So that would, I think, be an issue.
Okay.
That's correct. I'd just like to add that, the roadway, basically the roadway that's out there right next to the racetrack now, this roadway is being extended in that same manner. So it's a 4-lane road. The lanes are 12 foot wide. The ones that we're placing within easements are going to be 12 foot wide with 4-foot bike lanes adjacent to them, as well as 6-foot sidewalks beyond that. Down the main road, the spine road that we're extending from racetrack, it will have a 10-foot sidewalk on one side and a 6-foot sidewalk on the other. So, if you've been out there, there's plenty of room for trucks to maneuver, access, and we're going to carry that same theme down through the south of this phase as well.
Okay. We'll still have it open for public hearing. Others? Yes, sir.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing
I
but the
do,
truth?
and it should have been my right hand.
Thank you.
We'll still take it.
I'm thrown off with the mask. This is more of a question. I've traveled quite a bit, and a lot of the hotels that are on intersections and highways are 4 stories. I'd like to understand why this has to be 5, and why is the hotel company, the Holiday Inn, determining the height for this facility?
The applicant like to respond to that?
Yeah, with regard to the overall height, I think what's really driving it is, the number of rooms that are necessary to make the hotel in this location actually function and like I said, be financially feasible. So, this is consistent with the height that's in your existing standards. We're not changing that height, we're not increasing it. So it is what's permitted. You are permitted to go to a 5-story. If we included, additional area, or it had the wetland area adjacent to it that were included in that FAR calculation, or as I said before, had the calculation over the entire Phase 2 area, we wouldn't have to ask to increase on just that one parcel. But I think that's, the answer to, if you remove a floor out of a hotel, you're probably reducing, I think the overall room count here is, give me just a second, 122 rooms. So if you think about that and divide it by, roughly 5, and took away, 1/5 of that, that substantially reduces the economic viability of that particular use. So I think this is the type of use you want to see in that area, so that you are kind of drawing in some of the traveling public and serving people who are coming in and visiting this area, knowing some of the other things that are planned, around the interchanges and with the hospital parcel and everything else. A hotel in that area, I think, is a good thing. And certainly, I think you'd want to see it be successful as well. So I think this helps it achieve that.
Okay, I think we had one other member of the public that came forward, wished to speak on this item. Yes, sir. If you wish to speak after him, come on down. Okay.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
My name is John Causey, 3538 Tuscany Reserve Boulevard, and I'd like to compliment some of the questions that the commissioners have asked, and Mr. McGurk said it best when we said we're planning for 50 years, not 5 years. And I think if everyone's coming together with all these great intentions, wonderful new buildings and so forth, I believe this is the first commercial development of this size in some time. And I think I've only been here 2 years, but it looks like 44 and 95 is becoming the hotbed of development. So there's a great opportunity for the builder who wants to make a profit and the commission who wants to protect the property values to work together and build something of the very high quality and set the example for the rest of the development, not only in 95 and 44, but throughout New Smyrna Beach. Something we're proud of, something the developer's proud of, and 5 years from now, the people and the commissioners aren't going to be saying, well, we're just paying for the sins of the past. There's a great number of examples on 44 where we didn't get it right. This property sat dormant for 7 years with the exception of the service station or the gas station. There's new interest. Let's work together, but let's do it right. And honestly, let's hold the developer responsible for what they say they're going to do and the plans that they put forth with the city. Thank you.
Thank you. In response to that, sure.
Just briefly, I think one of the benefits you have here is that Mr. Snowden and his family have owned the property since 1948. They are residents. He is a resident, long-time or lifelong resident of the city of New Smyrna Beach, and so I think they certainly share that long-term view with both the speaker and members of the commission. So I think you've got a little bit different here because you do have somebody whose family has owned the property that is directly involved as the developer moving forward, since the late 40s. So thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other members of the public coming forward to speak, we will close the public hearing part of that. We'll hear closing remarks, first from the city. Any closing remarks from the city to address on any of the items brought up? Brian, go ahead.
I just want to clarify one item when we get to the FAR. The FAR, it's a PUD, so right now it applies to the entire PUD, and we enforce it on a lot-by-lot basis. As I understand what's been requested is that if we have a particular lot that has a major roadway that's in an easement, not in a privately owned tract, but if it's an easement, that area for that road will be subtracted out from the FAR calculation for that particular lot.
That's my request, yes.
Okay, understood. Want to make sure we had that they understood that and our staff did, so if that's part of a motion, that we can document that clearly.
Okay.
That's it, Mayor.
All right. Any closing remarks from the applicants?
No, again, I thank you for your time this evening. We certainly, as I said, we would agree to that condition changing with regard to the FAR calculation, so.
Mark?
Thank you.
And just for the record, because I know you guys are, I did receive the ex parte communication package from your city attorney at the beginning of the meeting, so thank you for that.
Mark, I had a couple more questions and a possible request if this is approved. What is the height of the hotel with the 5 floors? What is that overall height? Do you have that? Does anybody have that handy? 60 feet?
60.
All right, I'm hearing 60 feet from staff. Thank you.
That's correct.
So staying on that for a minute, if this is approved at that height, or frankly even at the other height, one thing that I think we've gotten right a few times, and even there's another hotel in town that I'm routinely complimented on the appearances of the hotel on Flagler, the Hampton Inn, I guess it is on Flagler. It fits the vernacular of New Smyrna Beach. So I guess my question for staff is, when is the right time to make sure that is done right? That is going to be something we're proud of. Like, I've traveled quite a bit. I've stayed in a lot of these, interstate hotels. Some of them look like, barracks in some cases. And so I want to make sure this is nowhere near that to the extent I can leverage that. When is the right time to have that discussion?
So for this, it would be part of the site plan, which
Okay.
they're required to submit architectural renderings to meet our code as well as this MDA. On those other sites, the entire project was a hotel, so you could have the hotel architecture in the overall MDA, and you could look at it at that time. So this is a future property. We have looked at some preliminary renderings, but the site plan would approve the engineering and those renderings.
Okay. Go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff, you want
If I can just add to that, we did have the Holiday Inn site plan submitted, and we did give them comments on it. The building comments were part of that too, and Bob has worked with the architect. They've made significant changes and resubmitted a revised building because of that, so.
I guess my concern is, we say, Commissioner Sachs said it, the gentleman that spoke said it, like we want it to be something that we're very proud of as a community, but I don't want to miss a chance to negotiate that, I guess, if I can just be totally candid. Like if we're about to approve something, is now the time to say, let's make sure we're getting what we want as a community. And I respect that they're long-term residents and they want to do the right thing. The problem is they're not making every design choice. Holiday Inn is, and they'll, they get a bunch of finance guys like me in a room and they don't care about that, frankly. They're headquartered somewhere else and they want to hit a bottom line number. And so, when is the right time to have that?
If there's something specific the commission had in mind, you could add that now. We obviously don't have that rendering in front of you to comment on and say what you like and don't like, so that could be brought back under a separate item, but it's currently not part of this MDA amendment.
Okay.
And with
Was it possible, Mark, to bring back the architectural elevation to be approved by the commission before it's finalized?
let me just ask Brian, from a process standpoint, because the site plan for that size building, I believe, would come back to the commission, that would be part of that review and approval. And from a design criteria standpoint, if you look in your agenda materials, page 12 of the Exhibit C to the initial PD is the city's activity center design standards. And beginning on page 12, subsection G, you have the building appearance standards that are adopted as part of this overall set of guidelines that the city adopted in 2004 for that area. So it has a fairly detailed set, of appearance criteria. Now, that being said, I don't specifically represent the owner of that property. So I'm happy to tell you that they'll come back and show you that as part of their site plan. I think that's when you have the opportunity to review and approve the final architecture as part of their site plan approval.
So what I would suggest, Mayor, is right now that site plan would only go to the Planning and Zoning Board, that you could make an amendment. I know it needs to be in the agreement or separately, that that Holiday Inn site plan would require, because of its size and location and how special it is, that would need to come to the commission.
Okay, but we would want to make sure to add that in as a contingent term, basically, on this.
Either,
And I don't think, we wouldn't have any objection to adding that on lot
All right.
7, particularly because we're asking for the additional FAR on that.
Okay. Second, or last question on the road. We're dealing, and I get this isn't residential, but we're as we get more through traffic, more guests, et cetera, we're dealing with, I'm hearing about a lot of speed issues in neighborhoods, non-native traffic and speed issues in neighborhoods. One thing in my, I know this much about traffic and engineering, but one thing I have learned is, road design plays a huge part of that. And so you get roads that feel like a super speedway, people treat them like a super speedway. And what I think I heard you describe was a great road, but it's wide and it's got this bike path and it's got this, I'm picturing it feeling like this super speedway, and I'm picturing that becoming a problem down the road where we're getting complaints that we got people flying down that road at 80 miles an hour because it's been poorly designed.
Sure.
What I have learned is that roads should be designed to have some chicaneries and other things that kind of cause those constrictions and bends and twists and everything to naturally dampen that, so we're not having to deal with, or not we, but some future commission having to deal with speed humps, speed bumps, chiefs getting yelled at, et cetera. So
Sure.
Has that been considered at all in these designs, and what things can we do? I do see some curves and bends, which are good, but could we build into the design, either now or at some point in the future, the right elements to naturally dampen speed?
Sure. I'd like to mention that if you look at the originally approved plan, where's the red dot?
It's the green dash there.
Yeah. This road, that would be your Raceway Road, right? It would be the drag strip south if it were approved as originally. And, this development, for those of us who remember all the discussion that there was on Activity Center here in this community before this plan ever got approved. I think the reality is this plan was somewhat more of a bubble as opposed to something that had wetland science gone into it, planning gone into it, engineering gone into it. So part of this roadway, with that curvature in the road, we've had some discussions with city engineer about, keeping the speeds low at 30 miles an hour. The way the Walmart driveway comes in that's on UC property over here, you simply can't come through this intersection and go quick. And we'd like to carry that same tone down through this neighborhood as well. Right now, we're building effectively a 4-lane roadway to nothing. It's a dead-end driveway. One of the difficulties was when there was so much discussion of where Williamson Boulevard is going to go, and there's been more further discussions, but I think we've confirmed it's not here. This road has already been platted previously as Ocean Gate Boulevard. But that's one of the things we had to do, is to keep this open-ended when we talk with staff, because nobody really knows in our city here what's happening to the south and what we will need in terms of roadways. But I think the design speed, keeping that design speed of that roadway down at the 30-mile-an-hour mark is going to do just that. And I don't believe this is going to be one of those super highways where you're seeing a bunch of speeds on those roadways.
Well, and I think if I can add to that, having the on-street pedestrian facilities and bicycle facilities, I think also kind of adds the additional activity on the street edge, and tends to, I think, create some friction to slow things down. The other point, when you get into this internal area, is we have features like this roundabout that create points that slow traffic flow down.
I'm not worried about those. That main kind of strip is the main thing. So I guess what I'd be hoping we could hold for is, building in, landscape elements, things that, but, I mean, things we're talking about now on streets that we're going back and wishing we had done. Let's just try to catch it here if we can during the design process, because it's way cheaper and easier to build in up front.
Yep.
To just add some things where we think speed will be an issue, that we can go ahead and try to plan for that.
And I think we can achieve things like that with traffic calming features at pedestrian crosswalks and things of that nature, because we do expect that there will be interaction and activity between the different sides of this. So we're certainly happy to work with staff and the commission and during the design review process to do that.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't think it'll be a problem for a long time. As long as that's a dead-end road, it won't be a problem,
Right.
but eventually.
When it
so-
goes south, when it goes
yeah.
further to the south, you'll need to make sure those features are
Some
there.
future commission should call us and thank us. All right,
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
yes.
I think it's incumbent on all of us, and hopefully we'll have it so, using best practices to make sure the roads can accommodate a ladder truck, since you're proposing a 5, hopefully 4-story building. I think that's necessary, and we wouldn't want to regretfully see it not happen down the road, so to speak. But two things came to mind, and I'd like to address them. The mini storage and car wash. We seem to have a proliferation of them, a lot of them, and so we wonder, how flexible are you as to find other uses?
I think that one of the reasons, the principal reasons we've asked to add those in is because those are things that we're approached about. Those are certainly things that as you indicate, are popular. Our intent, at this point in time, in this area here, kind of the phases up closer to the roadway, you can have, well, actually through the entire site, you can have, car washes now. The only difference or distinction is it a principal or is it an accessory use? Here, if you've seen some of the newer, I think, design and elements of those, they're actually very well done, very tastefully done. And again, the thing to keep in mind here is that anything that's built of that nature has to meet your design guidelines under that activity center design book. So I think you'll end up with something that is very distinct, from the standpoint of having to meet those design criteria. With regard to, kind of the warehouse use, again, that from a long-term standpoint for the property owner, I think is an attractive use because, it's something that allows for them to develop an income, a long-term income opportunity. But I certainly understand, kind of a lot of places, say, we don't want that up on our major roadways or anything. And so I think we would be happy to restrict that use if the commission, sees fit to only phase 5 so that it's kind of pulled back in a way. Again, the benefit you then have is that is a use that's allowed in there. It is a use that keeps the traffic generation rate down, provides a benefit to the landowner, but can be put into a portion of it that pulls it away from kind of that central area up near the roadway where you want to have, kind of more the feature uses, if you will. So we'd be happy to modify that use to restrict it to only phase 5 as shown on the CDP.
Okay. All right, we will now, any other questions for the applicant before we close this and have commission discussion and decide this item? All right, thank you, Mark, appreciate it. We will now close the second reading and quasi-judicial, and we'll now consider ordinance 107-20. I want to, for clarity, and Brian and Carrie keep me on track here, I captured 3 specific items that were pointed out as, wouldn't have an issue, I'm paraphrasing, wouldn't have an issue doing, or could agree to, or may agree to. So, but I do think, I just wanted to call out that those are not necessarily built in unless we build that into the motion as we make it. So what I heard there at the very end was that they would be amenable to restricting the mini storage use to just that phase 5. In my commentary, we talked about possibly requiring that the site plan approval come back to this commission. And then there was, that the FAR only being, the FAR be applied excluding the new roadway density pickup. That's highly technical terms I just used there, but we discussed it ad nauseum, you know what I'm talking about. But just for clarity, those 3 items should be included by the motion maker if those are desired by the motion maker. So with that, the commission will consider ordinance 107-20.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve as submitted with the condition that floor area ratios for all lots that front on private access roadways not include the area included within that roadway.
Okay. And a motion to approve with one extra condition on the FAR. Do I have a second?
I can second the motion.
Okay.
Mayor, discussion, would the motion maker consider bringing the site plan back to the commission?
Yes.
All right.
Just in general, I think that we have to look into our overall design regulations to make that more of a permanent thing also. But I'm willing to add that for this particular application.
So probably just for formality, do you want to amend? But before you do that, I also like this concept of pushing them, again, if this is going to go forward, pushing them, and they're amenable to it, they volunteered it, frankly. So pushing the mini storage not on 44, restricting it to phase 5. Would the motion maker consider amending to add those two terms as well?
Yes, I would.
Okay, so just a second or accept those two? All right, so the motion is to approve 107-20 is submitted with the three conditions of mini storage restricted to phase 5, site plan comes to us for approval, and the FAR conditions that were applied there. And that has been accepted by the seconder.
Apologize, Mr. Mayor. One point of clarification, just Mr. Snowden just pointed out, it could be possible, and if you'd be amenable, 4 or 5 for that mini warehouse use. So again, the southern portion of the property, but farther to the south, away from the roadway, in phase 4 or 5.
I defer to the motion maker.
That's acceptable to me. I didn't hear you mention section 4
Thank you.
before.
Okay, seconder, accept that, all right. So as presented, 3 conditions, mini storage to phase 4 or 5, site plan back to us for approval, and the FAR discussion that was included.
And that's on lot 7, correct?
What's that?
The site plan on lot 7, I think, was the.
Yes, site plan on lot 7, yes, thank you. All right, we had a motion, we had a second. Any other discussion by the commission? Okay, the one comment I'll make, there's some in our community that would like to see, never another brick in the ground. That's just not a reality. One thing I have been contemplating is we've had this tremendous explosion over the past few years of residential growth to our west. Commercial hasn't kept up. And so when we think of trips and trip generation right now, goods and services that are going to be eventually provided in this area and other commercial activities out there, right now those are trips that all head further east into downtown New Smyrna. So as you think about some of the issues and traffic generation, I think these are, if we have more people that are staying further west, that eases some of the traffic congestion we have. So it's just something to consider. All right, I had a motion and a second. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Colodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yeah, I'm a no, but it passed anyway. I felt like the hotel should be the size it was approved at. All right, ordinance 107-20 has been adopted. Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Good to see you all. Ordinance number 108-20, second reading and public hearing of an ordinance which would adopted would grant a non-exclusive construction roll-off service franchise to Precision Containers. Sorry, go ahead.
Ordinance number 10820, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach granting a non-exclusive franchise to Precision Containers and Cleanup LLC to provide construction and demolition debris removal services within the City of New Smyrna Beach, outlining franchisees' duties, providing terms and conditions under which such franchise shall operate, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. And I believe we have the applicant here who may be requesting a continuance. So.
Okay.
That is correct. I'd like to request this to be continued until the November 24th meeting. I'm out of town November 10th. We'd like to some additional time to work with the city staff to try to get the proposals between the two of us more in line than they are currently.
Okay.
We're meeting on the 10th and the 17th of November, not the 24th.
17th would be great.
17th's good. All right, do we have a motion to continue this item to November 17th?
So move.
Second.
City Clerk, if you call the roll.
Vice Mayor Colodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mike, you should have told me. I could have put you ahead of that last item.
Oh.
Sorry about that, man.
All good. Thank you very much. And for the record, Michael Lyons on behalf of Precision Containers, their attorney.
All right,
Thank you all.
thank you. Item has been continued to the November 17th meeting. It'll be considered at that time. 9A, ordinances first reading. Carrie, if you will read these to A and B.
Ordinance number 10420, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the land development regulations, amending Article 10 subdivisions and Article 11 site plans, providing for codification, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Ordinance number 10920. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Vice Mayor.
Do you have a discussion on that one?
Yeah, just a comment. At this last public hearing we just had, we asked that the subdivision come back before us for further review. We're now proposing to modify the section that change would apply to. Would it be appropriate to add something to that at a second reading, or would that be too significant of a change?
Brian has left the room, and he's probably the appropriate person to review that, but it looks like we could, based on the title, we wouldn't have to revise the title, so we could look at that, and if there's an appropriate place to insert it, we can make sure that that's included for
Go.
second reading. So it's to, you need to flesh it out a little bit. What kind of
Yes.
site plans would you like coming back to the commission? A certain size?
I would like time to flesh that out. I don't know exactly what I would propose. I haven't read that section fully to see where the site plan approvals go, whether they go to P and Z, whether they come here. So I don't know at this particular time.
So, Vice Mayor, if I may, real quick to bring Brian up to speed. So on 9A, the LDR changes, Vice Mayor pointed out, hey, we just asked someone to bring a site plan back. We're touching this. Could we add language or look at that language at least to contemplate whether or not we could add that as a requirement, look at what's required to go where now. City Attorney and Brian, a question for you all. I don't think we can hash that out tonight because I'm not prepared to discuss it. Nobody else is either. So could we, Vice Mayor, work with staff and others can provide input as well, bring some proposals back at that second hearing and we can talk about it at that second hearing and hopefully get language that's close enough. And if we have to get close and then continue that second hearing to the next one, we can do that. Does that sound like, will that work for the staff?
We can add one requirement. I would just suggest that we view this as kind of step one of two. This is the administrative step that clarifies kind of the number of copies and things like that. Step two is really looking at the process itself and how the approvals are made. We didn't really touch that with this, so I would say we have more of a comprehensive text amendment on the way to address that with subdivisions and site plans. And specifically, to answer the question, the Holiday Inn, a project of that size should go to the city commission. So we'd like to make that, the requirement going forward.
But you're saying we're gonna get another bite at that apple. That's kind of coming up following this item.
That's fine by
Yes.
me.
Okay. All right. So thank you for that. I think you're right. I'm on board with you. So this item will come forward as prepared. That second reading will be on November 10th, 2020, and then you'll take this feedback you've heard and bring something back to us as
Yes.
part of the next thing. Thank you, Brian. All right, Carrie, go ahead.
Ordinance number 10920, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 26, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 2, Standards and Specifications to adopt and amend administrative and technical amendments to the Florida Building Code, and Article 8, Floodplain Management, providing for codification, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Okay, and that will be, second reading and public hearing will be on November 10th, 2020. All right, next item up, boards and commissions. I want to point out, good to see Jordan here again. He's here every meeting. Gavel to gavel every meeting. New member of the Leisure Board. Good to see you, buddy. All right, item 10A, Airport Advisory Board. Consider the reappointment of 4 members to serve 3-year terms set to expire November 9th, 2023. So let's see, we've got the terms of Keith Goodrum, Celeste Lester, and David Mabe, is it? Mabe? And Eileen Smizer expired on September 9th, 2020. Mr. Goodrum has served 2 terms. Mr. Mabe has served 3 terms, and Lester Smizer have served 1 term. So staff recommends the reappointment of the first-term members and the appointment of 2 citizens to serve 3-year terms expiring September 9th, 2023. Are there term limits on this board or no?
Yes, on the Airport Advisory Board, it's 2.
Okay.
And if I may, I just received
I can't hear you. Pull up, Mike.
I'm sorry. I just received this afternoon a notification from Mr. Goodrum, who contacted the airport and submitted his resignation. So,
Okay. So can we deal with that at our next meeting? Because we can't.
oh no, he's
Okay.
not interested in being reappointed.
I got you. So he's not being reappointed. Okay. All right. So we need so we need to reappoint a couple folks, but do I have a motion to reappoint Ms. Lester and Ms. Smizer, who have only served 1 term?
So moved.
Second.
I'll take a second from Commissioner Sacks. Commissioner Hartman's motion. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll to reappoint those 2 members. Let's whittle those
Commissioner
down.
McGurk?
Yes, Commissioner McGurk.
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Colodey?
Just please repeat the 2 people.
Smizer and Lester.
Yes.
Reappointing.
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so now that leaves us within 1 vacancy to fill tonight, because we're not going to fill the Goodrum vacancy.
We can.
You're saying just go ahead and fill the Goodrum vacancy?
Yeah, why not?
All right, do we have a motion to accept the resignation of Mr. Goodrum?
So move.
Second.
City Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Colodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes. All right, we have 2 applications and sounds like 2 vacancies. Do I have a motion to appoint the 2 applicants to these 2 vacancies?
So move.
Second.
City Clerk, if you'd call the roll.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Colodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I feel like we lost somebody in there, so when you go back and count them up, make sure we still got the right number of people. All right, item 10B, Animal Control Board. Consider the appointments, reappointments of 2 members. All right, so the terms of James Belt and Robert Leonard expired on September 30th, 2020. Mr. Belt has served 2 terms. Dr. Leonard has served 3. And the term formerly occupied by Kathy Blackman is vacated as his member at the criteria. Okay, gotcha. So she had to vacate that because she doesn't meet these requirements, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
When she was appointed to that position, she filled the slot of being a member of the
Got it.
Southeast Volusia Humane Society, and now she does not.
Okay.
So she had to give up.
So we have 6 or so people. The current member criteria, and I don't know what you all have in the staff report or not. Current member criteria is you have to have a licensed veterinarian. That's filled by Robert Leonard. An SEVHS representative, that's vacant. You have to have 2 animal owners, that's Lori Crane and James Belt currently, and then a non-animal owner, Alfred Fortkammer. This is our most complicated board. I say this every time.
I'm
It's
glad
like,
you said that, man.
you gotta have someone with red hair and blue eyes and lives on Elm Street. It's like, holy cow. All right. Staff recommends the reappointments of Mr. Belt and Dr. Leonard with a waiver to serve an additional term granted by the commission. I think the recommendation is because you have to have a licensed veterinarian, and he's the only applicant in that role. So, do I have a motion to reappoint Mr. Belt and Dr. Leonard with a waiver for the additional term?
I will make that motion.
Second.
I heard a second from Commissioner McGurk, motion by Vice Mayor. City Clerk, call the roll on that, and then we'll do the appointment.
Vice Mayor Colodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, then we have received 1 application, and that is Sarah Weiss, I guess. And I'm probably butchering last names. I apologize if you ever watch this, Sarah. My bad. who is a current member of the SEVHS. Staff recommends that we appoint her. She would take over that Kathy Blackman term.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. City Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Colodey?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. That gets us through that one. And then planning and zoning. There's 3 members that need, their terms have expired. Patricia Arvidsson, we heard from her earlier, point out, Sandra Smith and Thomas Wheeler. They are expiring October 31st, 2020. All 3 members have displayed a willingness and desire to remain a member and be considered for reappointment. Ms. Arvidsson has served 2 terms. Wheeler and Smith are both in their first term. Does this position have term limits?
Yes, 2.
2. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
one thing you did say about Pat Arvidsson, she was appointed to a term, so she hasn't served 2 full terms. She
So-
served 1.5 terms.
Okay.
So,
That's correct. Her first year, they had,
She filled an unfinished vacancy or whatever, yeah?
Yes.
right, so she attended about 8 or 9 meetings out of that year in 2015.
so I also want to point out that Thomas Wheeler filled vice
Colodey's
mayor's
seat, yeah.
position, so he's also in that boat. So however we handle Arvidsson, we're gonna have to probably handle Wheeler in the same way, or at least try to be consistent.
Yeah. So, okay. So we have 3 vacancies. These 3 members have indicated their desire to continue serving. PJ is Ms. Arvidsson, sorry, she goes by PJ, is, I guess technically at or approaching term limit, but because of the, what you just clarified. We also had a slew of members here that expressed a desire to serve. I'm counting 15 or so members that have displayed interest in serving. So gentlemen, what's the pleasure?
I will make a motion to reappoint the 3 members.
Have a motion to reappoint?
And I'll second at the commission's pleasure.
Okay, so I have so just for clarity, that was a motion to reappoint the 3 current members, Pat Arvidsson, Sandra Smith, and Thomas Wheeler, and that was seconded. Go ahead, Commissioner McGurk.
So I guess my question is someone gonna get 2 full terms and then additional what they have served the remaining of a term filled by a vacancy? So I mean, it's either one or the other, or we're gonna get complicated. Either they're not gonna get 2 full terms, or they're gonna get 2 full terms plus what they filled the remaining vacancy. And I just wanted some discussion on what the commission thought about that.
It was, it would be, if we appoint to full terms now, which I think we should, to get on track, it would be very true that you would have a person serving 2.5 terms. I did serve on the Planning and Zoning Board prior to getting elected, and I found Arvidsson and Smith to be very good at it. So I would like to see them stay on the board.
Okay, well, I'm not questioning whether they're good or not. I'm just trying to clarify the understanding of what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Because
My motion is to make all 3 full-term appointments
So,
going forth.
okay. So PJ was appointed, it says in my notes, on January 27th, 2015. Sorry, I keep calling her PJ. Ms. Arvidsson was appointed on January 27th, 2015. So by my calculations, that is 2 full terms, 4 years, plus a year, as of right now. And the term limit on this is 2 terms?
Yes, that's correct. So she technically hasn't served 2 terms because of that. So if you want to do a waiver and include that into your motion, just to have it in there.
But they're 2-year terms, right?
No, this is a 3-year term.
Oh, 3-year terms, sorry.
Yes.
That blows all my math up. Okay.
Yes, I will, if the board feels it appropriate, I would make a waiver in that case.
So she, as of appointment, she hasn't served the full 2 terms at this point. She's just
No,
gonna,
she's 3 months shy of 2 terms.
she's 3 months shy of 2 terms.
Because she filled it unexpired, yeah.
Yeah, so I think to your point, and I'm kind of struggling with the same thing, is, when someone fills an unexpired vacancy, at what point is the cutoff of counting it as a full term versus, in this case, she's 3 months shy, so she's about to hit the two term limit within 3 more months. So she's really gonna get 3 full terms. And granted, I think she's a dedicated public, volunteer, so, but.
Well, yeah, so that's kind of where I was trying to have a discussion. In other
Yeah.
words, does she get almost 3 full terms, or it can get complicated?
I think I don't know that we write it in the law or anything, but to me, if it's more than half the term, you probably count it as they've served that term. I mean, that's just how I probably mentally will do the math. And so I don't know if everyone wants to follow that same guidance or not, but that's how I'd mentally do the math. If someone, if it's less than half of the term, then I wouldn't count them as having served, they come in to fill the last 2 or 3 meetings, and to me, that doesn't count, so.
Mr. Mayor, are we speaking to the fact that we have the ability to waive the term limit at our pleasure and let them serve another term?
We do, and that was what the motion maker requested,
Yes.
basically, is we're gonna have to do that, because in this case, Ms. Arvidsson would be serving beyond the term limit, because she filled an expired vacancy, and so she's really getting, 2.9 terms or something
Can I
like
ask a
that.
quick question?
Sure.
Does that change if our new charter is voted in?
Does not.
It does not.
I don't think this is spoken to in the charter. This would still be controlled by ordinance. Okay, so we had a motion to appoint all 3. I can tell you I'm not in favor of that, but, and again, nothing personal to Ms. Arvidsson, but I think as a rule of thumb, I'll have to adopt for me that if it's more than half the term, I'm not gonna appoint. And when we have other qualified applicants, and I believe in this case we do, so, I'm in favor of reappointing the other 2, but that's just my opinion. If there's no other discussion, City Clerk, call the roll. This is to reappoint all 3 members and waive the term limit requirement, just for clarity. Go ahead.
Commissioner McGurk?
No.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Colodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
No.
Mayor Owen?
No.
Okay.
Okay, do I have another motion?
Make a motion to approve Sandra Smith and Thomas Wheeler.
Second.
Okay, and a motion to reappoint Sandra Smith and Thomas Wheeler, and a second from Commissioner Hartman. We'll go ahead and call the roll on that one.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Colodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes. Okay. So I will take it that we are not going to reappoint Ms. Arvidsson, and truly that's almost disappointing in a way, because I do think she has done a good job on that board, and so we appreciate her service. Kelly, I think we're gonna need nomination forms. So we'll accept nominations, and Kelly, get those ready to pass out. To have a nomination.
Stephen Snively.
Stephen Snively is one nomination. Commissioner McGurk, there's only 1 vacancy, so we can each make 1 nomination. Do you have one to make?
I believe Ms. Score is on the list.
Yes, sorry, I see it. So that was a nomination for Mr. Snively and a nomination for Ms. Score. Nominations?
I have no nomination there.
Nomination? Okay. Could you pass out ballots? So you were gonna vote for either Score or Snively? Thank you.
All right. Vice Mayor Colodey, Commissioner McGurk, Commissioner Hartman, and Mayor Owen selected Stephen Snively. And Commissioner Sacks selected Alessandra Score. So it'd be Stephen Snively.
Okay. Mr. Snively is appointed to the Planning and Zoning Board for a term expiring October 31st, 2023, and members Sandra Smith and Thomas Wheeler are reappointed. Thank you all, and thank you to Ms. Arvidsson for her service. All right, Mayor and Commission reports. We'll begin with the Vice Mayor.
Okay, I have a list. It might have been last weekend, I'm not quite sure, but I attended the opening of the boat ramp in Edgewater, which adds 4 ramp spaces and 37 boat trailer parking. Hopefully that will alleviate some of the overloading on our North Causeway and our swoop ramps. In conjunction with that, at least I have been at the North Causeway ramp, and I find that it's been operating fine since we have put in the regulations concerning the trailer parking. I hope that we move ahead, and I'll bring this out for December 10th to try to finally tie down a development plan for that location. Second of all, I attended a meeting of the Florida Planning and Zoning Association, which included a little field trip out to Gemini Springs as to efforts they are taking to restore water quality, removing sediment, so on and so forth. I plan to use some of that information when we discuss the maintenance and upgrade of our Turnbull land, which we are buying away and not planning as to what to do with. I want to do that. I also spent time talking to a representative of the Volusia County Environmental Commission who says some of our regulations are not even as strong as the county, and some of them are the other way, and we do have the right to modify those regulations, specifically concerning wetlands. And I plan to meet with the Volusia County Environmental Group over the next couple weeks and hopefully come up with some proposals where we can strengthen our regulations. Third thing's an item that I forgot to bring up at our last meeting, and our manager reminded me of, concerning we have at least one, possibly 2 sailboat operators who have barely functional sailboats and tend to tie up for a really extended period of times at our park right here behind us and over at the AOB site. That precludes transient boaters from coming down and perhaps stopping, gathering supplies at our marine outfitting place and the other marinas along the North Causeway, or going to some of our restaurants. Currently, they're allowed to stay 10 hours out of the day at 1 or 2 of the places. I would like to see the commission authorize staff to take whatever steps are necessary to limit them to 4 hours per day. These are people that are not paying anything to come to our facilities and interfere with the uses that were planned at both places. I would like that pushed on, or put on a future agenda. I don't see the need to wait till December 10th, so if staff, I have spoken with Khalid on this. He's spoken with the Fine District, and there's nothing wrong with us doing those changes. So I'm asking that that be placed on the next agenda. Khalid, do you think you would be ready for that?
I think probably it's too early for the next agenda. We have agenda back to back, so
Okay.
it depends on the city attorney's drafting the ordinance. So
On the
I would-
nearest possible agenda when you would be ready for.
It's probably, I would say, the next meeting would be December 8th, I think.
Okay, that's fine. Next item, we've discussed in our budget discussions allocating monies. One of the things I would like to do is we have the Smith Street properties, which were in our capital improvement plans. We're contemplating moving somewhere. We also recently passed a regulation or a resolution allowing for brownfield grants. I would like to see us take advantage of those grants to see what's under the ground in these old facilities so that when it comes time to make a decision as to their ultimate use, that we have that information available. The COVID, just a general comment. I look around and I see everybody's practicing 6-inch or 6-foot separation or wearing masks, which I do fully support. I would love to see our general public take that approach. If we follow the national guidelines, we all know that they change from week to week, but it seems the only thing that really stays is social distancing. We allow restaurants to fully open, and people wear their masks as they walk in the door, and they immediately take them off. I don't know how we can convince people, or if it's our job to convince people to follow those guidelines, but we're taking some steps about masks. I don't know what else we can do, but I'd love to see it. Last thing is the homeless issue that was discussed. As I read through the police blotter every day, twice a day, the homeless issue, although it's very apparent to these people who live on Canal Street, it is a citywide issue. It's in our parks, it's in our convenience stores, it's everywhere. I know we chose not to follow the very expensive and somewhat constrained approach that Daytona took, but I would really like to see us do a little bit more. Perhaps once the chief gets his new recruits in order and available for general duty, we can perhaps devote a little bit of time to patrolling a little more frequency on Canal Street, specifically regarding this. I leave that up to him. Thank you for your time and consideration on those items.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try to be brief. One of the biggest problems we've faced for the last 2 or 3 years is a growing homeless problem. I'm really torn. I feel very badly for those that live on the street. There are unfortunately some incorrigible people that have unfortunately they're using drugs, they're drinking heavily, they're really acting poorly in our public spaces and on private property. I also look at the police blogs. Many of the reports are transients and drinking in public, sleeping in public. I do know this problem will grow. I had a nice brief conversation with the manager and our attorney. I've spoken to the chief several times, and we all agree there really isn't much we can do with the laws that we have. I wish we can do more and hope we can have discussions. Knowing that this will grow, knowing that the people that are living outside are threatened by COVID. And so I don't want to see our beautiful little city deteriorate. I don't want to see our taxpayers, no matter where they live, hurt by homelessness and fearful that they can't go out and enjoy their property. Just down the street, I have a lovely park, and families are afraid to use it because they're almost sure, and we cannot find them, lots of homeless people living in the park, setting up camp. In the morning, they leave the park. So that's something I hope we can address, we can help. We talked about First Step Shelter. I don't believe in the efficacy of trying to send one there. If we could send a family or anybody that wishes to go there, well, that's a step in the right direction. But the only way we can help homeless here is not just by feeding them, that's by giving them a roof over their heads, and that's going to take a lot of money. So people, please, the ones that came up before us, we really hear you. You know, I especially am sensitive to this subject. I don't want people to starve on the street, but at the same time, we have a quality of life and health that we need to protect. And I really regret to discuss this second topic, and it has to do with the cultivation of Yaupon tea in the public park. I'd like to put it on the agenda for, if not the next agenda, a soon upcoming agenda. I believe there are some discrepancies in how the cultivation is practiced in the park. I looked at two different license agreements. One of them says 1 year, and I thought that was our trial period, but another says 3 years. I have the documents, I will share them. That was the first thing that was concerning. And honestly, I had not seen hide nor hair of the practitioners for quite some time. I was hoping to see quarterly reports. We have not received them. The people that are employed are not identifiable. They don't have any markings on a uniform or a tag or anything, so you can't tell really what they're doing. And honestly, the practice of harvesting yaupon leaves are you have to traipse through the thicket, and you have to chomp down a lot of trees to get to the yaupon and to get to the Brazilian pepper, which they hope to eradicate. Well, it turns out that there are many schools of thought about eradication of black pepper. And most of them say the only way to do it is to dig a big hole with an excavator and pull them out. The only other way is to use the most toxic herbicide that will kill and make everything sick, poisoned. On top of it, the gentleman who has the operation won't be able to have an organic product if he uses it. So he's not using triclopyr or anything like that. So I'd like us to have a discussion. Maybe Mr. White can come in and discuss further with us. Again, there are alternating and opposing discussions and thoughts, schools of thought about eradication of black pepper. Some say you cannot eradicate. The practices that they are using of just lopping off black pepper and piling it onto the street, which to many people's dismay, the city didn't communicate very well, honestly. I know you're trying, but there was bad communication, and the clippings sat on Saxon's right-of-way for enough time for the leaves to turn brown. We don't even know if they went to seed, because they say when you lop off black pepper, all you do is make them bigger if you cannot remove the main stem at the trunk. So I wonder about the efficacy of that practice. And unfortunately, our contract calls for the city to pay for the removal of the cuttings. So we have that extra problem. If we can adjust yaupon teas practices in some way that's agreeable to him, that would be great. But if not, I'd like us to revisit and maybe get a report from staff on it, because we are owed 4 quarterlies on their practices. So could we do that? And that's all I have. Thanks.
Carrie, was that a 1-year or 3-year contract? Is there a discrepancy on that, or?
The one we did most recently was for 1 year. It's my understanding there's a separate agreement for a different area, which is the 3-year agreement. So that was before my time, so I don't know if Khalid remembers it.
Oh, okay, all right. So the one we most recently approved, this commission approved one, and we did approve a 1-year trial.
Correct. That would be
That's
up
the one I
in
remember.
January of 2021.
Yeah, but even the January thing, that agreement didn't actually get executed for quite some time because it had to go through other layers of
Yeah.
approval with county and some other agencies, if I
Right. It
recall.
was effective as of the last date of execution, which was in January 2020.
Yeah.
And we had approved it before that.
We had approved it sometime before it got finally executed in January 2020, so it started. So we can certainly, I would say, talk with staff, and if you feel there's contract elements that aren't being met, then, we can try to address it with staff. And as far as readdressing the contract, it's basically almost up at this point. We got 2 months. If it's a 1 month, if it's a 1-year term, January of 2021, it comes up. And so at that point, we can choose if it's not working to.
And I won't say that they're solely the problem for that defined parcel. It's really a very critical, endangered, delicate area. And we find the more people in there, people are illegally harvesting saw palmetto.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad activity going on in this small, really choice area, and we're trying to save it. So, if maybe Alban Brothers can help us there, that would be good.
Yeah, my thought would be between now, I don't know that it's worth, frankly, trying to bring it back before that expiration of January, what is it, January 1st, roughly?
Roughly, it's
Somewhere
sometime in
around
January.
Like, I don't know that's worth trying to I'd rather just bring it back as do we want to extend this contract, and if it's not working, we should just vote it down or put in new provisions. So I don't want to try to renegotiate for, 60 days, if that makes sense. Because by the time you get it all worked back and forth, it's going to expire anyway. So it's just my recommendation on that item. But if there's urgent things that they're doing incorrect that you're seeing that aren't in compliance with the contract as we signed, then certainly let staff handle that.
I will.
Commissioner McGurk.
Thank you, Mayor. The brownfield site for the Smith Street, I don't disagree with you, but I want to consider that if anything happens with the property, if some kind of joint venture or sale or whatever, a brownfield environmental study has to be done. So I'm wondering whether or not we need to do that and spend the money. Reminds me of the AOB site. The city went through a process where we paid some money to get the environmental studies done. And then the potential developer at the time also had to do those, and they found and there's some things that differed a little bit. So I just did not necessarily want to jump on if I understood you were saying, commit expenses when they may not be necessary, but certainly clarify.
I would like to apply for a grant. I don't necessarily want to spend any money, but we approve grants.
Gotcha.
So we find that out, then we go on.
Okay. I certainly agree. If we can get a grant to pay for that, absolutely. COVID got brought up. I'm not asking, but I want the commission to be thinking about whether or not we're going to need to go back to virtual meetings. I say that because if the statistics are correct and the virus does explode as the cold weather comes in and people start traveling, I certainly am going to want to do that if the numbers get big. I see no reason not to, although I'm sure city attorney is going to tell me we need some kind of special circumstance from the state to be able to do that. But I just want that to be I want to plant that seed a little bit for the commission. Regarding the homeless, Mayor, you were going to bring that up, or no? Okay, then I'll go ahead. We don't all need to repeat it. I'll let you bring it up in comments so we don't have to keep doing it. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Hartman wins the Pink Out Award with the mask. But
You like that?
I like that. It's good.
All right. So, I attended the Zoom meeting on the affordable housing issue and kind of deals somewhat with the homeless on some of them. And the interesting thing out of that is in order to afford to build affordable housing or attainable housing or workforce housing, whatever you want to call it, the only way to do it from a business standpoint is to increase your density. And then you've got to also find out what backyard you're going to put it in, because that seems to be the kickback on this is whose backyard. It's not affordable to go above 3 stories because of the cost of the elevator and the elevated construction costs. And actually, too, the experts said that even if the land is donated, it doesn't bring the cost down enough to make it truly an affordable housing. So if you're going to look into that and go that route, the only 2 ways to do it is, or the only way to do it is to increase density and then where you're going to put it. So just keep that in the back of your mind. See, I had a discussion with the city manager about the sidewalks on the North Causeway, especially on the south side of the road. I wish you guys would take a trip the next couple days and go along the causeway and see all the roots that are in there and how bad it is and how, at the neighborhood council, somebody almost lost his kid out of the bicycle because it bounced him so high. So, those are some issues that, and it's in the staff report and some things that we're going to have to look at. But you know, it'd be nice if some of you guys would just take a walk through there and see truly what some of the residents are dealing with over there. So when the issue does come up, you know, whether it's coming out of the sidewalk budget, comes out of the paving budget, you know, how do we do it? You'll have a little better information about that. The other thing that came up with, I attended the neighborhood council meeting the other night, and one of the things they're looking to do is kind of figure out what their true purpose is and what their true mission is going to be. And what was mentioned is that each member of the committee that was appointed by one of you guys should sit down with you and talk to you about that and see what your vision is for the neighborhood council. So those people may be contacting you in the near future, you know, because, just to see where your line of thinking is and where you intend to go with that or not go with that. So just be prepared for that. You know, there's been a lot of controversy about the charter amendment. I think a couple of the local groups have done a really good job trying to explain things and actually get the true out. But I also heard that Philip did another video, a very short video that was really precise and to the point. It's kind of late in this game because depending on who you talk to, most everybody there in Volusia County has already voted. But he did a really nice job, and I commend him on that because it was really short and to the point and drove home some things, points that was really important. So if you know, just as you get him, please take a look at that. He did a wonderful job on that. So I think he maybe has some production in his future somewhere, you know, down the line. We went to the splash pad, dedicated splash pad the other day. You know, those are one of these things that you see drawings and you see everything else, and then when you actually see it, it goes, huh, I didn't think it was quite that small, you know. So that was kind of an eye-opening thing, and it's something that we have talked about, not necessarily this commission, but the previous commission, is maybe when we do some of these design things and even some of these buildings, like the Holiday Inn, maybe we want to start requiring 3D models so we get a better visual on some of these things. Something that we may want to look at going forward, large-scale developments, maybe something in a 3D model would be beneficial to all of us in line with that.
I think on the splash pad, I think Michelle had a 3D on it.
Yeah, I don't remember. Okay, but anyway, I mean, it's a wonderful place. But the amazing part is that of all the kids in the after-school program, they were more interested in playing flag football with the mayor than the splash pad. So, you know, that was really, you know, it was enlightening to see that. You know, that kids just want to be kids and go play in the dirt, you know. But so certainly there's a couple people there and they enjoyed the splash pad, and I know I've talked to other people. I don't think we've done a really good job in advertising that, because I talked to a couple out in Venetian Bay. They had no idea that one was even in the design or the fact that you know, it had been completed or opened. So that may be something that Philip wants to do going forward, is kind of put that out a little bit more so we can get some activity out there. And then the last thing for me, depending on Tuesday, it's been a pleasure working with you guys. I hope to see you again next month.
Mayor, I'd like to make a quick comment on it. So as I recall, the neighborhood council, and thank you for giving us a heads up on that. The neighborhood council, as I recall, was originally set up when Gail Hendrickson, our former chief planner, we reorganized the neighborhoods. And the intent was we appointed people from different neighborhoods to cover all the different neighborhoods that planning had identified. And that was supposed to give our residents access, direct access to the planners to discuss what makes their neighborhood unique, what creates the character of the neighborhood, and what potential threats and weaknesses are coming. And if there's a development project coming, it was simply there to be able to facilitate information into that neighborhood as to what's coming and so on. So I'm not sure that ever really materialized. I know Gail left, and we kept the neighborhood council. So I agree with Commissioner Hartman that we need to give some direction on that. But the problem is, when my appointment comes to me and says, what do you want us to do on it? I'm not necessarily going to have an answer, because what it was intended for originally has not really materialized. So I think it's important that this commission needs to have a discussion on what our vision is for the neighborhood council going forward, and we can then facilitate that down to our appointments. Thank you.
Well, and I think that was sort of the purpose of this whole thing, was for them to get with you and to see what your vision is, and then how does that fit in. The problem is with staffing the way it is, and they're kind of butting their heads against the wall, because staff has limited access, staff has limited time, and they don't want to be a burden on staff. So is there something else that they could be more productive on? If it's maybe just the communication part of it, how do they get the word out into their groups, into their communities, their HOAs, that sort of thing, and then they can report back on those kinds of issues. But I agree with you. What I vision is something that you probably don't envision, which the rest of you don't envision. So Randy Herman, the chairman, encouraged them to meet with you guys and say, what exactly do you expect of them, and where do you want to go forward with this? And then they can kind of figure out how they fit into it, and then have that discussion with us, and we can figure out what direction truly needs to go with this. Because there's some that have gotten frustrated because they just don't feel they're doing enough. Some feel that there are issues that maybe wasn't something that was their purview or should be within their little group. So they're looking for guidance and direction, and he encouraged them to come to us and say, what do you guys expect or looking for? And I think it's a good conversation to have. It's a good way to open some communications and see going forward, we're actually, is this truly a beneficial committee? Are they meeting enough, not enough? And what are we expecting out of them, so that they have a little better guidance and direction going forward? So I think it's, I look forward to it, because I think it would benefit all of us just to have that conversation. So.
Okay. A couple of things. One is I would note that my team won in the flag football game.
Yeah.
But that's because I was all-time quarterback of both teams. So, no, that was actually a lot of fun. And if you pay me $600,000, I'll go do it every day. So I can replace the splash pad. All right, advisory councils. It's funny because I had that on my list, and then I decided I was going to take it off. I'll see how Tuesday goes. But this is something I had brought up many moons ago. I viewed it as a two-phased process. Phase number one was all the work that the city staff has been doing with just kind of codifying what we have, and getting a much better system in place to kind of manage just the mechanics of that. The second phase to me is, I've pointed out that we have tremendous inconsistencies across those. Some have term limits, some don't. Some you've got to be, we dealt with it tonight. You got to be a blue-eyed member on Elm Street, and et cetera, et cetera. My hope would be as a part of the next 2 years that we're able to look at those advisory councils. I've looked at what other cities have done, and they have from EDAB boards like neighborhood councils. It's called different things. They actually get reports. They, believe it or not, sit down. They get advice from the advisory councils. They get input on things from their advisory councils. And I feel in our case, I don't have the time to go to every single advisory, meeting. And so they, producing some kind of a quarterly update and saying, this is what we're working on, interacting with and engaging with the commission in some way. I think we could better leverage the talent that we have on those boards if we really tried. So I hope that's something we can do, because what I don't want is to have them just meeting to meet, because I think they'll get burnt out on that. So anyway, the two things I really wanted to talk about, and actually I've got some questions, and Chief, I got some for you and Khaled, but so you'll need a mic. So on homelessness, let's just start there. Is there anything, we've all talked about it, we would love to do something, right? And we've had these debates, we've had discussions, we had the one thing that came before us. So I guess my question for the staff team is there any enablement that you're lacking from us that would allow you've heard what we hear from the residents, you've probably heard way more than we've heard, frankly, you and your teams. Is there any enablement that you're missing from a policy standpoint, from a resource standpoint? Is there some gap there? Or is it, as I've consistently told residents, what I've learned most about this issue is there's not a whole lot we can do. There's legal parameters and legal things in place where you can't arrest your way out of this problem. And I know you've said that many times. So are you bumping into those kind of obstacles, or there's resources or enablement, policies, procedures, something you need from us that's on this issue? And I'll defer to Khaled, and you can bring the chief in as you see fit.
So we use every tool available to us. We tried on the open container ordinance to move that back, to walk it back a little bit, and not make physical arrests. Chris Ryan and I are working together to reevaluate that and then maybe tweak that a little bit, which would come back before the commission to modify that ordinance to allow us to possibly take repeat offenders into physical custody and transport them to the jail. Those are some minor things that we can do, but you're absolutely right. We're working within what the law allows us to do right now to deal with the homeless problem. If you look at the law, on both log shifts every day, we're issuing trespass warnings to transients. We're identifying those calls in the log so that you'll see in parentheses it'll say transient, so that we can track those. We're doing the best we can with what we can do, but again, there's limitations to what we can do in terms of trespass from public property. Private property, there's no limitations. When the private property owner says, I want that person trespassed, then we do that. But on public property, there's some limitations.
And that's what I've explained to residents. So, I had somebody reach out and they pointed to this park out here and they said, what can we do? Because there's a group that they get to this pavilion and they're there all day and they hang out at this pavilion all day, and families don't feel comfortable coming to the park. And so, well, what if your family chose to go have a retreat at that pavilion and spend the whole day? We couldn't just come run you off or arrest you. And it's the same thing applied to them. Is that an accurate statement? I mean, unless they're breaking a law, it is not illegal to be homeless in a city park.
That's correct.
And that's what so again, my question is, and I think you've answered it, but just for clarity, it's not like there's been some request that has come to us and you've said, look, if I just had this personnel, or if I had this policy, or if I had this funding, or if I had this X, Y, Z, it's not like we have stopped short of trying to solve the problem. It's truly that we're bumping into, if they're in a park, not doing anything illegal in that park, we can't, just because you don't like seeing them, you resident seeing them in that park, we can't take them out of that park. Is that it?
That's very accurate.
Okay. So are there other things? I hear stories, and I've told residents that, look, these are things, it's kind of like littering. We all despise it, but it's extreme. You got to catch them in the act, basically. I mean, it's super, super hard to prosecute and write tickets and really criminalize that, because you got to literally see the motion. So I hear stories of people that say in this park that they're being, solicited. I hear stories of people that say, hey, I get emails, hey, I was going by the picnic table and somebody said, hey, you got money, or you got weed, or you got this or that. Like, is there anything we can, other than literally just having like undercover agents that try to hear these things, like, is there anything we can do about that kind of thing, in your opinion?
To answer your question, yes, sir. I mean, if we had unlimited manpower resources, we would be able to address some of that through undercover operations. But again, what we're looking at are minor misdemeanor violations.
Yeah.
That typically, even with cannabis, marijuana, we typically do not take those folks to jail for those violations, because we have a city ordinance that allows us to fine them, but the way that the laws are written now, and when we're on the cusp of probably marijuana legalization for recreational use right around the corner, right. I think that we have to be very careful in terms of making arrests or making cases
on something that will be legal very shortly.
Right. So there's no policies that we're missing that make us a particularly friendly environment for these activities. We're just like every other city operating under these federal and state, really federal, I guess, laws and case precedent that drive our behavior. Is that?
Yes, sir. We show the transient population the attention that they need based on their behavior, not based on their presence. And that's really how we address it. So if people are behaving poorly, then we show them some attention. That attention may not be in the form of enforcement. It may be in the form of us going up and saying, how can we help you not be a problem for us? And that may mean helping them to obtain services or to get into the system in some way, but it's not always an arrest.
Yeah, and homelessness, in my experience, and I'm not an expert on this by any stretch, but homelessness is often not just because they can't afford housing. Like, I don't know if that's I'm not asking you to affirm that statement, that's just, wanted to slip that in. Something you just said is that you deal with their behavior, not their presence. I think that's a really, really, I'm going to steal that. That's really good, because that's truly what we have.
I'll rent it to you. I don't know if you could steal it, but I'll rent it to you.
All right. So let's take the story that we heard today from the speaker, and for your memory. So says, hey, there's a guy over there, public urination in a park, mothering child present, broad daylight, so there's other public facilities open, because I know if there's not, then that's a whole other thing, the law kicks in, which I've had to learn and explain to people. But in this case, it feels like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. So let's pretend the dispatch had gotten that information out correctly. Even in that case, is witness statement enough for an officer to like, what was the ideal appropriate outcome of that scenario, where multiple witnesses to this, officer shows up, addresses the gentleman? What's the ideal scenario of that?
The ideal scenario is that we would make contact with that individual and address his behavior. If his behavior is he doesn't understand where the restroom is, then we'll direct him to the closest restroom. If he's being disorderly, that's a whole different animal. As what was described here, had that been described to the officer by the dispatcher, and I'll have to research that call.
Yeah,
I don't know that it was. Then the officer should have taken some action to curb that disorderly behavior. The flipping off, the yelling and the screaming, and that's where the behavior crosses the line.
Okay. And so again, just for full kind of clarity and transparency, so that I understand and the public, what are those actions? Like, what could the officer have done? Let's say they had gotten that full report. Let's say they show up and even the guy's still being a little bit belligerent even with the officer. What can they do at that point? What are the tools in the tool bag at that point?
There's a variety of things they could do. What we ask them to do is to look for the underlying cause. If that underlying cause is mental illness, then maybe a Baker Act is appropriate. If that cause is substance abuse, particularly if it's alcohol abuse, then Marshman Act may be appropriate. And then it may devolve into an arrest situation. We had a call over on Flagler Avenue and Pine today that I participated in, where we had some homeless people that were having some issues. We had to help one person because she was inebriated, and then we had to dismiss another person saying, hey, you can't hang out here at the shuffleboard courts. So we were borderline making an arrest on that one individual, but he just didn't get to that point. So again, what we do is we offer services. It may be mental health services, but there's a variety of things that the officers can do. There's a bunch of tools for us to be able to address that.
How were you able to dismiss the one person and say you can't hang out here at the shuffleboard courts?
We give them an option, is that if their behavior continues in that public place and people become alarmed at their behavior, then we will make an arrest for disorderly conduct or disorderly intoxication. So we gave them the option of you either leave or you're going to jail.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I don't want to turn this into a homeless workshop because clearly it's the end of the meeting, it's 10 o'clock. So, but I just wanted to have kind of that candid dialogue since we heard from many residents tonight. I'm open to having another homeless workshop. We had one before. We specifically talked about the ordinance. I don't know what the outcome of that will be. I mean, what I'm hearing you say is, I mean, there's a few things we could kind of poke and prod at, and we might could say, hey, we want to take a harsher stance on that as a city. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't, but I'm saying maybe we don't give that option. Maybe we say, no, you're publicly inebriated. We're getting maybe we take a little harder line stance, and that's what we set as a policy at this board, and give you all that direction. Sounds like you're trying to walk a fine line of governing with heart and head, and so I think that probably is something we should, would merit some follow-up conversation specifically on homelessness, whatever the vehicle and venue we choose to do that in. Maybe it's December 10th or whatever. I don't think we can, I'm afraid we're falling behind on this. And again, I'm not faulting our police officers. It feels like it's a growing problem. And, I feel like our hands are pretty tied, so I want to make sure we're doing everything we darn well can do where the hands are untied. So, I know you waited for me to speak to it, so I don't know if you have anything you want to add or subtract from that.
Mayor, I think you did a great job at articulating the problem with Chief. I don't think the problem exists due to a lack of our effort. The commission, the police chief, city manager, staff, city attorney.
Agreed.
But the fact of the matter is we're failing to solve the problem. Now, it is what it is. I don't have an answer. I look to the attorney and the police chief and the manager, and we worked on it. We're just not getting it done, and it's not necessarily any of our faults. But the problem can't continue to get worse. So I certainly, I feel for the residents who come in. I personally deal with a lot of what they deal with. Luckily for me, in my dealings, it's private property.
Yeah.
I'm able to, Chief is fantastic at coming in and having his guys, and we issue a no trespass. And the next time they come on, they get arrested, and it works. However, the sidewalks, the downtown areas, I took my kid fishing right underneath the bridge, right off of Wayne and Riverside. And underneath there are mattresses and a bunch of homeless people sleeping underneath the bridge. So they're here. We know that.
Yeah.
I don't know what we can do about it, but we seem stymied in solving the problem or making a dent in it, because the problem over the last 6 months has only gotten worse, and I anticipate it getting exponentially worse. So, thank you, Mayor. You did a great job articulating the issue.
So I guess what I would ask is, for staff, I think it's a big enough issue. You've heard each of us speak to it tonight. I know we had one workshop. That one is kind of focused on that ordinance with the panhandling. So I would say that let's, sometime in the next, I know the schedule's tight and it's staff time, but I think this is owed another conversation. Maybe it's part of that December 10th. Maybe we dedicate an hour to that, or however that is. But I think the next administration, whoever that is that sits up here, I'd like to see that discussed. So hopefully we can carve out the time for that. And I echo Commissioner McGurk's comments, and that's kind of why I wanted to have that dialogue. Is I know the residents can sometimes feel like the inaction is, it's just that we're not doing, we could just do something, if the chief would only do this, or if you all would only make a rule that was this. And, everything that I'm learning, because trust me, I've had long conversations with Carrie, like, why can't we do this? And she'll send me some case law, out of Miami or out of wherever that, well, they tried that and the judge said this, and this is their right as a human. And so you can't do this and this. And I'm not talking about inhumane things, but just, so. All right, the second one, Chief, kind of still in your ballpark, and I don't want to have a whole dialogue on this one, but I just want to comment, and I think I've said this before, but just like you predicted on homelessness, code enforcement issues I'm seeing, especially in certain areas, we're having some growing issues with this, and it's if you buy into the broken windows theory, it's going to start spreading and infecting other areas and becoming bigger issues. We've got some homes that are problem areas. We got some blue tarps that are still on roofs from 2004 hurricane season. And I've had lengthy discussions with our city attorney about what we can and can't do. There's an affordability thing from our standpoint. It costs money to engage in some of these things. We have properties that are racking up liens that we'll never see that money, but we're continuing to have to go back and deal with that property. So I do plan, it's one of my items probably for December 10th is, depending on November 3rd, I'd like to see us talk about that. And again, I'm not faulting staff. I think staff is doing everything we've told them to do so far. I just want to figure out what other options and what other resources can we as a governing body put on the table to help solve this issue. Because I'm hearing more about it, but more importantly, I'm seeing it. Like, I'm driving by areas and going, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. And it feels like some of these are just long-standing issues. And it's kind of like the sailboats in the water. Like we gotta eventually just, do something. So, more to come on that. All right, that is it for mayor and commission reports. Thank you all. It is 10 o'clock. We have till 10:30, right, Carrie? Yes, I think it is. All right, city manager, go ahead.
Mayor, if I just may respond to two things, the one on homeless and then the one on code enforcement. On the homeless, I have reached out to several cities to see if there is any program out there, any system out there that has worked. We heard from case management to something like First Step up in Daytona. I have reached out to the southeast Volusia cities, Port Orange, Edgewater, and Oak Hill, to talk about maybe a consolidated, something like First Step. So my idea was at the 10th, probably bring something like that, some type of proposal that I could discuss with these cities and see if they want to share with us. Because right now in Daytona, if you go to First Step, you don't have a guarantee space.
Right.
So first come, first serve. But if we have something for Southeast Volusia, maybe that will help us in order to maybe do some of the things. That's not going to solve the problem 100%. That's obvious. But at least maybe that will be a step forward. However, it comes at a cost. And the cost you could see from the city of Daytona. It's not just the initial cost of constructing the building, but obviously to keep it going with the management and so forth.
Yeah.
So that's on the homeless. So on the 10th, we will have a certain time for that. On code enforcement, we're actually bringing back to the commission. We would like to hire for now. We need at least probably 4 code enforcement to 5. We're coming back, I think it's on the next agenda, 2.5. 2.5 employees just to address the issues that you talked about. We just talked about it last week. So we're coming into the commission. I'm sure if you're ready for it for next meeting on the 17th, we'll come in for 2.5 employees with the possible maybe adding 2.5 maybe after 6 months.
So something to keep in mind on that is I think from my conversation with Carrie is I think there's the code enforcement, the personnel can help us kind of establish that there's violations and start the meter, if you will. But then there's this, what about the person that's been ignoring us for 10 years and they have this massive fine and they've basically said, whatever to us.
And we're hoping, I mean, it's like the one issue, for example, the one on Pioneer Trail.
Yeah.
And I've been talking to Katie and talking to Chris about that, and it's, at some point, we thought it was actually have a homestead, and it doesn't. And we don't know if it has a mortgage or not. But it just, the idea that somebody living in it, that's what makes it difficult. But I think we could find the funding, and I was hoping that we could go to the building fund, but.
Yeah, and I hear you, and again, I don't want to turn this into a code enforcement workshop. I want to get out of here by 10:30. So, but my issue with that is I hear you, and I fully sympathize. Yes, there's people living in it. However, there's also people living around it that are choosing to live a higher grade lifestyle, that are keeping their properties up, and are being punished by those people choosing to live like that. And so I have full sympathy for that, especially if there's younger children or something involved. I don't know if there is in that case, but I have full sympathy for that. But we also have to consider everyone else that's, hasn't chosen to live like that, but is being subjected to that. So.
Fully agree. I mean, I think this issue and the homeless issue, it's almost, they're parallel. I mean, they're almost exactly the same. There is something you could do and there's some stuff you cannot do. And And it just makes it very difficult for the staff, it makes it difficult for everyone,
I
and
hear
for
you.
the people living next to it.
I got it. All right, other items on your report. Thank you.
I think I'm done, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cal. City clerk's report.
Oh, I'm sorry, one item. The Board of Realtors, they came to you a couple of, probably about a month and a half ago, about the dog park. They would like to get that going before the park master plan. So I know that Commissioner Hartman wanted to do that, but I don't think it's gonna really have any significant effect on the park master plan. They don't wanna lose the funding on the dog park, so they
Yeah.
wanna go ahead and start with it. So I wanna get your blessing to give them the okay to go ahead.
It's not costing us anything, is it? They're paying all the cost, right? And it's really just a slight change in the park, so I have no issues with that, frankly.
I'm good.
All right, we got three that are good. Good. I'm hearing no concerns, so, all right. Oh, thank you. This is highly unusual, but we'll let it slide. It's 10:08. And you guys are buying us apart.
I just wanted to clarify, there is some city costs, and I don't know the exact number. I know Faith and I worked it out, but by us getting started now, we're able to give an extra $1,000 than we originally planned. So whatever small city cost there was has now been
But
deducted
that number's
more.
in literally like the three digits, like the hundreds or
Yeah,
thousands.
yeah. So basically, like,
Yeah.
the most expensive part is the fencing. It's around $6,200. We're putting in $7,000.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like very, very small, but I just
Yeah, yeah.
wanted to, you know.
No, when we say no cost, meaning like, we're not talking a $50,000 investment,
No, no,
we're
no,
talking
yeah.
500.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
got it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Kyle, let's finish. City clerk, anything?
No report?
City attorney?
No report.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Mayor, could
Oh,
I
yeah,
please
sorry,
add, before you
sorry,
bang
hang
that
on.
gavel? Thank
caught
you
me.
so much. It is troublesome wearing a mask. I've been diligent inside the house, outside the house. I'm hoping that we can be a good example for that mandate that we ask the people to abide by, with no penalty, with no fine, no punishment. And we actually have seen better compliance. More people wearing masks, less sick people. I'm finding out people I know have gotten sick. People I know that know other people have gotten sick. So please, wear your masks when you can, and that would be a good time. But thank you.
I wear mine when I'm within 6 feet of folks, for sure. Thank you all. Meeting adjourned.